In the dim, eerie halls of the Silver Dragon dungeon, two guards in gleaming silver armor stood watch, their post as dull as their conversation. They flanked a heavy iron cell, their spears resting lazily by their sides. Suddenly, the sound of heels clicking against the stone floor echoed through the hallway, sharp and commanding. One guard straightened, his voice respectful. "Her Majesty." The guard stiffened, standing at attention just as a striking figure emerged from the shadows. With her head held high, her hair swaying like a blade, and an aura that could freeze fire, there she was, the Silver Dragon Queen, Roswisa. The guards bowed, so low it seemed like they were trying to touch their foreheads to the floor. "Your Majesty," they murmured in unison, voices filled with reverence. Roswisa didn't even acknowledge their display. Her gaze was fixed ahead, her stride unbroken. With a graceful flick of her wrist, she dismissed them. "You two out. I want to speak with him alone." "Yes, Your Majesty." The guards scurried away like mice fleeing a cat, leaving her alone in the cold, echoing dungeon. Roswisa entered the cell with an air of absolute confidence, her gaze sharp and calculating. She took a moment to survey the man chained before her, her lips curling into a smirk. "Great Dragon Slayer hero," she began, her voice dripping with mockery. "How does it feel to be nothing more than a prisoner of our dragon clan?" In the dim light, the man raised his head weakly. This was Leon, the fabled hero of humanity, now bound and bruised. His voice was faint, but his words were steady. "Kill me," he said, his tone defiant despite his state. To his surprise, Roswisa chuckled, resting her hand delicately against her cheek as if savoring his misery. "A quick death," she teased, stepping closer. Her fingers trailed gently across his face before gripping his chin firmly. "Oh no, it's not that simple. You're far too handsome and resolute for that." Suddenly, her nails grazed his cheek, leaving a faint scratch. She tightened her hold on his face, her smirk widening. "A few more scars," she said slyly, "and you'll look perfect." Leon jerked his head away from her grasp, his glare fierce. "Stop humiliating me," he growled. "If you're going to kill me, then do it already. Chop me up, just don't waste my time." Roswisa tilted her head, her eyes glinting mischievously as she licked a stray droplet of his blood from her finger. "You know," she mused, "if it weren't for a certain villain framing you, you wouldn't be in such a pathetic state." She leaned closer, her voice almost seductive. "How about joining our Silver Dragon clan?" Leon's expression hardened, and a faint, confident smirk crossed his lips. "Are you even worthy?" Her playful demeanor vanished, replaced by a flash of rage. Without hesitation, her tail lashed out, striking him with a force that sent him crashing into the stone wall. The chains holding him shattered on impact, leaving him slumped on the ground, coughing up blood. Before he could recover, Roswisa was there, her foot pressing firmly against his chest, pinning him down. "How dare a prisoner speak to me like that?" she hissed. Crossing her arms with regal poise, she towered over him, her gaze cold and unrelenting. "Leon Cosmode," she said, her voice laced with scorn. "Do you still think you're the great hero of mankind? Do you dream of wiping out our dragon clan and becoming a legend?" Her lips curled into a wicked grin. "Wake up. You're nothing but an ignorant, defeated ant. Maybe, just maybe, you could have left a legacy, ensured wealth and glory for your descendants. But now, you'll have none of it." She leaned closer, her face inches from his, her voice soft but cutting. "It's a nice fantasy, isn't it? Too bad you'll never see it." Leon, his jaw clenched and teeth gritted, glared up at her. Despite the pain, he managed a fierce smile. "Roswisa," he said, his voice steady and defiant, "don't underestimate humans." Suddenly, Roswisa wrapped her tail around Leon's neck, lifting him into the air. Confidently crossing her arms, she smirked slightly and said, "What a stubborn guy." Grinning in pain, Leon looked toward Roswisa. Closing his eyes, he said, "Her Majesty." Hearing that, Roswisa's eyes gleamed with excitement, and her smirk deepened. "What? Are you ready to beg for mercy?" Leon struggled against her grip, groaning in pain. From the beginning, you made two mistakes. Rosweisa's confident demeanor faltered, her expression shifting to surprise. Huh, Leon quickly continued. You shouldn't be alone with the most powerful dragon slayer who has been trained. Rosweisa narrowed her eyes in confusion as Leon went on. Second, you should never. His eyes glowed red, and small magic circles appeared in both of them. Go taste my blood. At that moment, Rosweisa felt the effects of the blood curse, her body reacting instinctively as she released Leon from her tail. He landed firmly on the ground as Rosweisa staggered, clutching her chest with trembling hands. Her confident poise wavered entirely, her cheeks flushing as she thought, "It's so hot." Her knees gave out as she knelt on the ground, trying to regain control of herself. Her mind raced. Why is my body reacting this way? What on earth is going on? In front of her, Leon stood tall, his gaze sharp. Your Majesty, very soon you will live in pain brought by the soul, all your life. Rosweisa tightly closed her mouth, struggling to suppress her reaction. But her body betrayed her, and she suddenly lunged forward, pinning Leon to the ground. Her weight pressed against him, her chest pressed firmly to his, and her flushed face hovered above his. Leon froze, his confusion evident as he thought, "What's going on?" His thoughts were interrupted as Rosweisa's hazy, lust-filled eyes stared into his, leaving him stunned. This situation, is this being aroused? Rosweisa held Leon's face firmly in her hands, her gaze intense. Without hesitation, she kissed him as if he were her lover, catching him entirely off guard. Leon, stunned, couldn't think straight, and was utterly confused. What happened after that? Well, even I didn't get to see it. All I know is what came next. Clothes and shoes were scattered all over the cell. 1 hour later, Rosweisa finally came to her senses. She clutched her chest, her expression a mix of shock and disbelief. Am I? She stammered, before looking toward Leon with an angry glare. Grabbing a nearby cloth to cover herself, she shouted, You! What did you do to me? Leon, slumped against the wall and barely holding himself together, looked at her calmly. Blood curse, he explained weakly. A forbidden technique that can only be used once in a lifetime. If you taste my blood, a soul connection is created between us. When I die, the curse will put you in endless pain. Rosweisa's anger flared as she shouted, Nonsense! If this is a spell that takes effect after your death, then what just happened? Leon, struggling to stay conscious, muttered, This was an accident. I thought the pain caused by my death would be the only manifestation, but I didn't expect a side effect. To make you. Before he could finish, Rosweisa cut him off, her face flushed with embarrassment. Shut up, she snapped, trying to hide her expression. Leon, despite his condition, gave her a sly smirk. But as far as I know, you dragons follow the rule of monogamy, right? After my death, the great silver dragon queen won't just be unable to find a new mate, you'll also be unable to leave offspring. How will you explain this to your clan? This spell's effects have exceeded even my expectations. Rosweisa's expression shifted to one of pure frustration and defeat. You, she muttered, glaring at him. Leon, not giving her a chance to speak further, added, Your Majesty, the great silver dragon queen. You said I wouldn't have a successor, but now neither will you. No dragon successor. How ironic. Rosweisa's anger boiled over as she summoned her power, a glowing aura forming in her hands. Approaching Leon with fury, she snarled, You bastard! Before she could land her attack, Leon, on the verge of fainting, spoke with surprising calm. Do you want to kill me, Your Majesty? You don't have to bother. I'll be dead soon anyway. Summoning the last of his strength, Leon met her gaze with confidence. Live with hatred for me and the pain of this curse for the rest of your life. That is my revenge as a human. Some time later, Rosweisa, now fully dressed, stood over Leon's unconscious body. Her expression was a mix of anger and confusion. You're just a human, she muttered. And yet, you've taken revenge on me in such a despicable way. And now you want to die? She summoned power in her right hand, her gaze piercing as she looked down at him. How can it be so simple? Suddenly, a mysterious mark appeared on Leon's body, glowing with an aura. Meanwhile, Leon, unconscious and unaware of the mark, remained still, oblivious to what was happening to his body. In the Silver Dragon Castle, Leon Cosmode, once a legendary Dragon Slayer hero, lay peacefully in bed, sleeping soundly. His mind wandered back to the past. He remembered when he was 5 years old, having killed his neighbor's vicious dog with his bare hands. He had been stopped by a passing top Dragon Slayer, who saw potential in him and took him in as his apprentice. That was the day Leon had tried to protect a girl from that same dog. By the time Leon was 10, he had entered the Imperial Dragon Slayer Academy, where he trained for years, graduating at the youngest age with the highest evaluation in history. By 15, he was already on the battlefield, slaying dragons, recapturing territory, and achieving countless military victories for the Empire. His accomplishments were legendary, and soon, he became known as the strongest Dragon Slayer hero, the only hope to end the war and lead the Empire to victory. But everything had changed when he was captured by the Dragon Clan. 2 years had passed since that fateful day, and Leon had been unconscious the entire time, confined within the walls of Silver Dragon Castle. He suddenly woke up in a panic, sitting up from his bed, his chest heaving. He placed his hand over his heart, murmuring, "I am." His voice faltered as he looked around the room. Sunlight streamed through the window, and the flowers on the table bloomed with grace. The curtains fluttered gently in the breeze. Leon's confusion deepened as he glanced at the unfamiliar surroundings. "Where am I?" he asked aloud. Just then, the door creaked open, and a cute little girl peeked in from behind the door. She wore a gentle smile, her eyes sparkling as she looked at Leon. "Hey, you're awake," she said brightly. Leon blinked, his face flushing red at the sight of her. So cute, he thought. He then panicked, holding his head. "So that's how it is," he muttered. "I gradually understand everything. It must be because of the great contributions I've made to mankind that I was sent to heaven. And you." He stood up and slowly approached the girl, pointing his finger toward her with dramatic flair. "You must be the legendary angel." The little girl, unfazed by his words, tilted her head with a smile and asked, "What is an angel?" Leon knelt to her height, giving her a gentle smile. "Hello, little angel. What's your name?" The little girl clasped her hands together excitedly, her innocent face lighting up. "Myun," she said proudly. Leon closed his eyes and smiled warmly. "Myun. What a lovely name," he chuckled. "Wait a minute," he thought to himself. "Why does this angel have such strange hair? Black and white?" The little girl, oblivious to his inner musings, raised a finger to her lips and said, "Mom said it means the moon." The little girl, holding her finger up proudly, said, "Mom said it means the moon." Hearing that, Leon's thoughts went wild. An angel with a mother? He stared at the little girl in confusion. Then he took a deep breath, introducing himself. "My name is Leon. Leon Cosmode." The girl's eyes lit up, and she raised her hand high into the air excitedly. "I know. Leon means lion." Leon was taken aback, his eyes widening in shock. "Who told you that?" he asked, his voice tinged with surprise. Without changing her expression, the little girl simply replied, "That's what my mom said." Leon's face froze, his mind racing. "No way." A sweat bead rolled down his face as panic set in. "May I ask, who is your mother?" The little girl clenched her little fist to her chest, then pointed her other hand dramatically toward the sky. "Roswisa." At the mention of that name, Leon's body went stiff, as if petrified. He pointed toward himself, his voice trembling. "Your mother is Roswisa?" "Then I am." Before he could finish, the little girl looked at him, confused by his panic. She tilted her head slightly, then confidently stood in front of him like a superhero. With both hands on her hips and a bright, innocent smile, she said, "You are the father." Leon's mind was struck like thunder. His brain scrambled, trying to make sense of it all. He held his head in his hands, panicking. "Wait, this is actually Roswise's child?" At that moment, the little girl looked to the side excitedly and shouted, "Mom!" Hearing the word "mom" caused Leon to glance in that direction, and standing there was none other than the terrifying, powerful dragon queen, Roswisa. The little girl, beaming with joy, ran up to her mother, grabbing her hand. Her tail swings uncontrollably as she giggled. Mom, Dad is awake. Roswisa, with a serene smile, looked at her daughter. Yes, I know, she replied softly. Then her gaze turned to Leon, her smile curving into something more mercurial. You finally woke up, Leon. Before we continue, I've got a quick request for you all. I know you love watching my videos, but I also know that many of you are watching without subscribing to my channel. That's actually why my progress is a bit slower than I'd like. So here's the challenge. If my channel hits 10,000 subscribers before New Year, I'll find and recap a new manhwa that's even better than this one. Plus, I'll give a shout out to one lucky subscriber in my next video. So don't forget to write your name in the comment. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now let's get back to the story. In that brief moment, Myun, completely oblivious to the cat fight between her parents, innocently hugs her mother. She looks up at Roswisa and asks, Mom, you must be really happy to see Dad wake up since you come to visit him every day. Roswisa, with a playful smile, looks at Leon and says, That's right. Hearing this, Leon's temper flares. He grumbles in his mind, only a ghost would believe that. Roswisa then pats Myun's head and gives her a gentle smile. Myun, go out and play for a bit. I need to talk to your father. Without a clue about the tension, Myun happily raises her hand and cheers, Yes, before skipping out the door. Leon, watching her leave, glares at Roswisa. Is she really my daughter? He mutters, not hiding his frustration. Roswisa, approaching him with a mischievous grin, teasingly responds, What else? She's our biological daughter. Then, with a swift motion, she shoves Leon into his room and, using her tail, closes the door behind them. Leon, fuming, stands in front of Roswisa, like he's about to challenge her to a duel. You hate me, so why did you have a child? Why did you even save me? Without a hint of emotion, Roswisa casually replies, You've been asleep for 2 years. Do you think I could just forget everything you did to me back then? Leon clenches his fists, growing angrier by the second. Do you think I wanted that to happen? We're so different. If it were any other time, I would never have touched you. Roswisa moves closer to him, a teasing glint in her eyes. Oh, so touching me is torture for you now. Leon, frustrated and desperate, yells, Of course it is. Suddenly, Roswisa wraps her tail around his leg, flips him onto the bed, and leans on top of him. Leon's eyes widen in panic. What are you going to do? With a single swipe of her hand, Leon's shirt was ripped to shreds. Then Roswisa summons her magic with a single swipe of her hand, conjuring a glowing magic circle. I'm going to carve my own dragon pattern on you, she says, her tone playful but confident. Leon, now terrified, pleads, Stop it, Roswisa. She places a finger on his chest, and Leon's chest begins to glow with a strange light. Roswisa smirks. From now on, you'll be my prisoner. You'll never be able to leave me. Teasing him further, she adds, When your fellow humans see the dragon tattoo on your body, what do you think they'll think? Will they see you as the great dragon slayer hero or a traitor who surrendered to the dragon clan? To his shock, the same pattern appears on Roswisa's chest as well, a matching mark between them. She smiles confidently, making sure Leon knows exactly who's in control now. Leon clenched his teeth, sweat trickling down his face as he glared at Roswisa. Why do it to this extent? He gritted out, his voice filled with both anger and disbelief. Roswisa, her expression playful yet dangerously composed, leaned in closer. Her fingers brushed against Leon's lips, silencing him. Don't you understand, Leon? She purred, her voice dripping with venomous amusement. The dragon race's concept of revenge has always been difficult for human dragon scientists to comprehend. Revenge is not just a feeling for us. It's an art, an inhuman behavior built on paranoia, extremism, and motivations far beyond human understanding. She drew even closer, her gaze intense. I want you to live with this shame for the rest of your life. To be humiliated by me, again and again, until your very soul is crushed, she added with a sinister smile. As Roswisa towered over him, Leon lay motionless on the bed, struggling to control the sensations coursing through his body. The effects of the death spell were taking hold, but something else stirred within him, a heat he couldn't control. His body reacted involuntarily to the pressure of her presence. From the perspective of the Silver Dragon Queen, this was the ultimate revenge. making the greatest dragon slayer in human history a slave to the very clan he once sought to destroy. Roswisa was not just punishing him. She was ensuring that he would serve her for the rest of his days, a tool of humiliation and despair. With a slow, deliberate movement, she traced a finger over his throat, her eyes gleaming with malice. "So, let's get started," she whispered, her voice filled with cold amusement. From a human perspective, this is incredible. But for Roswisa, this is just the beginning of her revenge. The next day, in the Silver Dragon Castle, two dragon maids giggled as they chatted near the Grand Hall. One leaned closer to the other and said, "The Queen seems to be in such a good mood today." The other maid chuckled, waving her tail. "You don't know this?" Her husband woke up. Unbeknownst to them, Leon stood behind a wall, listening intently with a horrified look on his face. His thoughts spiraled. She actually announced to the public that I was her husband? A cold sweat formed as he swallowed hard. You have no idea how terrifying that mother dragon is. His mind flashed back to the previous night, Roswisa's overwhelming strength and relentless teasing. He shuddered, clutching his aching waist. "She squeezed me dry for a whole day and night. My waist is almost broken." Dark circles under his eyes told the rest of the tale. Outside, near the castle gates, a few dragon soldiers stood guard, their powerful forms towering over the entrance. Leon peered cautiously from behind a pillar, assessing the situation. "There are 4 dragons guarding the side door. It's impossible to get out from here." But something felt off. He rubbed his throat nervously and thought, why are there so few guards at the Silver Dragon Castle today? It's completely different from when I was brought here 2 years ago. So quiet and strange. As he scanned the area, his eyes locked onto a hole in the wall nearby. His heart raced. Approaching it cautiously, he whispered to himself, "How come there's a hole here?" He examined it closely, poking the edges. "This can't be a trap, right?" He slapped his own cheek, shaking his head. "Never mind. I can't overthink this. I have to leave here, no matter what. Even if it's a trap, I'll force my way out." Crawling through the hole, he muttered under his breath, "Goodbye, perverted mother dragon. As for the little one, Yun, she's adorable. But for now, she'll have to stay with her crazy mom." Meanwhile, atop the Silver Dragon Castle, Myun spotted her father sneaking through the hole. She tilted her head, her innocent eyes lighting up as she pointed her tiny finger. "Mom, look! Dad's digging a dog hole." "How cool!" Roswisa, lounging on a sunbed in a bikini, glanced over lazily, sipping a drink. With a smirk, "I saw it. He's pretty awesome." Roswisa walked over to her daughter, who was beaming with excitement. Little Myun balled her tiny hands in a fist and asked eagerly, "When will Mom go and fish him back?" It was clear Myun had inherited her mother's bold personality and sharp tongue. Roswisa chuckled softly, leaning down to gently place a finger on Myun's lips. "Myun, you can't say fish him back. That's rude to your dad." Myun tilted her head in confusion, her wide eyes blinking up at her mother. "So, what should I say?" With a mischievous grin, Roswisa replied, "Say catch him back." Myun's face lit up, and she nodded enthusiastically. "Catch him back. Got it." Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Leon sprinted through the undergrowth, his breathing ragged. As he pushed himself forward, he thought to himself, "Once I climb over these mountains, I'll see the borders of human territory." But his paranoia wouldn't let him rest. Without stopping, he glanced over his shoulder and muttered, "I've been running for so long. She's not catching up, right?" Suddenly, a powerful gust of wind swept past him, nearly knocking him off balance. His heart sank as he looked up at the sky and saw a massive white dragon circling above. "Roswisa," he muttered under his breath, dread filling his chest. The dragon swooped down, her massive wings stirring up leaves and dust as she pursued him. "You're quite the runner, Leon," Roswisa said, her voice laced with amusement. "Damn it!" Leon cursed, panic gripping him as he pushed his legs harder. Roswisa, however, was already ahead of him. She landed gracefully in front of his path, blocking his escape. Her voice took on an imposing tone as she said, "It must be fun to play with me like this, right?" Leon pointed a trembling finger at her, but his words caught in his throat. Roswisa smirked. "I'm very satisfied, Leon. But don't you think this was too easy? Who helped you divert the guards and left a hole for you to escape?" Leon's face was drenched in sweat as he stammered. "Even if I knew it was a trap, I had no choice. I just didn't expect you to get up so quickly. Her dragon face moved closer, her eyes gleaming with playful malice. And what will happen if you return to human territory? She purred. With my mark on your chest, do you think they'll still see you as a dragon slayer? Leon clenched his fists, glaring at her. Then I'll start my life over as an ordinary person. That's still better than being tortured by you. Rossweiss's expression turned dark as she flicked her massive wings. You truly don't know how to appreciate my kindness. Before he could react, her massive claws wrapped around him, and with a powerful beat of her wings, she took to the sky. Let me go. Where are you taking me, you crazy dragon? Leon shouted, struggling against her grip. Since you're so eager to go back, I'll help you, Rossweisse replied coolly, her voice dripping with mockery. After 3 hours of soaring through the sky, they finally reached their destination near the Empire's border city. Without hesitation, Rossweisse released her grip, dropping Leon from the sky. He plummeted to the ground, landing flat on his back with a loud thud. Groaning, Leon held his head, rubbing it in pain. It hurts, he muttered, his body aching from the rough landing. Leon groaned as he sat up, rubbing his sore head. He turned to his side, and in the distance, he saw the warm glow of lights coming from a town nestled at the edge of the horizon. His eyes widened as he recognized it immediately, a human settlement, a human town. He muttered to himself, his voice tinged with both relief and disbelief. Behind him, Rossweisse landed gracefully, her dragon form dissolving into her human figure. She approached with a calm yet knowing smirk, her presence radiant and unshaken. That's right, she said, her voice carrying a hint of amusement. That's the human empire. Standing beside him, she gazed at the same town. Her tone shifted, becoming almost contemplative. Do you see it now, Leon? The long-lost human town you've been yearning for. Do you feel like you can return to the human world by simply stepping over there? Leon's eyes grew misty, his throat tightening as emotions welled up. For a fleeting moment, it felt like freedom was just within his grasp. Rossweisse, noticing his reaction, curved her lips into a sly smile, a smirk tilted just slightly to the left. Her tone turned sharper, cutting through his thoughts. But Leon, you can't go back, even if it's right in front of you. Before he could respond, the mark on her chest began to glow ominously, its light flickering with intent. Simultaneously, Leon's own mark reacted, sending a searing warmth coursing through his body. His heart pounded as he looked down in shock, his hands instinctively clutching his chest. Rossweisse closed the distance between them, her gaze dark and intense. Her playful malice was palpable, and Leon instinctively backed away, only to find himself pressed against the rough bark of a tree. She leaned in closer, her voice low and teasing. Oh, did I forget to mention, she said with mock innocence. When one of the two people with the dragon mark desires the other, the marks react. Right now, you're feeling hot all over, aren't you? Itching to get started, unable to bear the urge. Leon gritted his teeth, glaring at her with defiance. Do you want to do it here? Rossweiss's smile grew wider, more mischievous. Yes. Do you know why I brought you here? She asked, her tone dripping with mockery. I want you to see it, the human world so close, yet completely out of reach. I want you to understand what it means to have something within sight, but never truly within grasp. Leon clutched his shirt tightly over his chest, his gaze hardening. Do you think I'll lose faith because of this? He challenged, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions coursing through him. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then, with a sudden surge of determination, Leon grabbed her hand. His voice rang out loudly and defiantly. I'll wait patiently for the right opportunity. When it comes, I'll repay you double for all the humiliation you've put me through. Rossweiss's eyes widened slightly in surprise before she let out a low, amused chuckle. Oh, Leon, she murmured, her tone laced with intrigue. I'll be waiting for you, dead or alive. Leon's body tensed at her words, the weight of her intentions pressing down on him. But before he could respond, Rossweisse spun on her heel, her expression shifting into one of decisive mischief. By the large tree near the Empire's border city, Rossweisse moved with a flourish. In an instant, she drained Leon of his remaining strength, her actions leaving her looking invigorated and refreshed. Dressed impeccably once more, She glowed with an almost ethereal energy, little love bubbles practically floating around her. Meanwhile, Leon lay sprawled on the ground beneath the tree, shirtless, his eyes glassy with defeat. He turned his head to the side, refusing to meet her gaze as a single tear slid down his cheek. Roswisa adjusted her clothes and, looking over her shoulder, said, "I am very satisfied with your performance just now." She returned to her playful nature, teasing and mocking Leon with a laugh. She lightly touched Leon's chest with her fingers, saying, "How about I bring you here every month to visit your hometown?" Leon, visibly irritated, made some distance between them and slumped against a tree. With a sharp glare, he snapped, "You're just a female dragon with your head in the clouds, thinking about how you're going to drain me dry." Roswisa, thoroughly amused, replied with a sly smile, "Ah, I see you figured me out." Then, summoning her wings and avoiding his gaze, she added, "Let's go. Our daughter is waiting for us at home." Leon, struggling to put on his shirt, yelled, "Wait!" But as she started to leave, he stepped past her and firmly said, "As a dragon slayer, I don't want to be caught by you like prey. I'll walk by myself." Roswisa raised an eyebrow at his defiance, retorting, "From here to the Silver Dragon Castle, it takes me 3 hours to fly. It would take you at least 10 days or half a month to walk there." Without turning to look at her, Leon scoffed, 10 days, half a month, it's nothing. Don't underestimate human endurance." Roswisa smirked mischievously, folding her wings. "Fine. I'd like to see how long you'll last." After a while, as Leon trudged through the forest, he started to slow down, sweat pouring down his face. Roswisa walked beside him with ease, throwing a glance his way. "Can't walk anymore? If you ask me." Before she could finish, Leon barked, "Not tired." "Who said I was tired?" Roswisa smirked, crossing her arms. "The only thing tough about you is your mouth." Suddenly, the sound of galloping horses echoed through the forest. Both Leon and Roswisa turned to see a group of dragon slayers approaching. Leon's heart leaped as he thought, "Great. These guys might be able to help me get rid of her." But Roswisa's presence behind him radiated an intense, killing intent, freezing him in place. "No. If I call for help, she'll kill them without hesitation." The group's leader signaled his men to stop. Looking at Leon and Roswisa, he said, "Are you two lost?" Leon forced an awkward laugh, rubbing the back of his head. "No, we're just hanging out," he said, silently thinking, "I can't get innocent people involved." The leader extended a hand. "This forest isn't safe for strolls. Let me give you a ride out." Name's Walker, captain of the 47th Squadron of the Imperial Dragon Slayer Army. Leon waved his hands nervously. "Thanks, but we're good. Really. We've got some self-defense training and—" Walker frowned, squinting at Leon. "You look familiar. Have we met somewhere before?" Leon froze, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Behind him, Roswisa's eyes narrowed, and her hand began to glow with a gathering energy. "Not good. She's going to blow them to pieces." Thinking fast, Leon grabbed Roswisa's hand, pulling her closer to him to stop her attack. Flashing his most strained smile, he said, "Sir, you must be mistaken. I've just got one of those faces. Even my wife here confuses me for someone else all the time." Roswisa blinked, her malicious aura replaced with pure confusion. She glanced at Leon, clearly thrown off by the sudden proclamation. Leaning closer to her, Leon whispered through gritted teeth, "I will go back with you obediently. Just help me get rid of them first." Leon and Roswisa stood side by side, gazing at the Dragon Slayer group with lovey-dovey expressions, their faces a perfect picture of affection. Even though this was all just for show, they sold it with a flair. Captain Walker waved his hand in farewell, chuckling. "I won't disturb your love affair any longer," he said, mounting his horse and leading the rest of the group away. As the soldiers disappeared into the distance, Roswisa's expression shifted into something far more intense. She turned to Leon, her voice carrying a subtle edge. "So, have you hugged enough?" Leon froze. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. He had just played the part of a doting husband in front of a bunch of dragon slayers. His face flushed, and he stumbled backward wide-eyed. Roswisa crossed her arms, her confident smile never faltering. "You're smart not to ask for their help, but—" She leaned in close, her finger tapping his chest angrily. "You need to know your position, Leon. Just because we have a child doesn't mean I'm your wife. Leon looked away, his voice laced with disbelief. I never thought of being your husband. Rosweiss's expression faltered for a split second. Then she quickly turned away. Let's go. There's still a long way ahead. But as they walked, Leon suddenly felt an intense pain shoot through his hand. His vision blurred, and his knees buckled. He looked toward Rosweissa, but everything around him went dark. From above, Rosweissa crossed her arms, watching him faint with a raised eyebrow. Pathetic, she muttered under her breath. A simple human. In a flash, her aura flared around her as she transformed into her majestic dragon form, towering and fierce. She picked Leon up with ease, gently tossing him onto her back. Well, she mused, flying into the sky. This time, I'll take that as a plea for mercy. Leon slowly opened his eyes, the familiar ceiling of the Silver Dragon Castle coming into view. Before he could process anything, an excited, innocent voice rang out. Dad, you're awake. Myun's face lit up with pure joy as her tiny tail wagged enthusiastically. This time, Leon wasn't screaming in panic. Instead, he rubbed his temple and groaned. How did I end up back here? Myun proudly wagged her tail even more and chimed, It was Mom who brought you back. Leon's memories came flooding back, Rosweissa carrying him like he was some prize candy. His face darkened as he thought, damn it. She really got me like prey this time. He suddenly noticed his hand wrapped in a neat bandage. This is... Before he could finish, Myun clasped his hand with both of her tiny ones, her eyes sparkling. I did it, Dad. I bandaged you up. Leon looked at her, his thoughts swirling. Dragonologists say dragons are ferocious, violent creatures from birth. I thought Myun might have those dragon traits too. But then his gaze softened as he saw her innocent face. She treats me completely as her father. Is it because she's a human-dragon hybrid? Smiling, he patted her head. Myun is amazing. Her laughter filled the room as she hopped up and down in excitement. Leon playfully held up a finger. But remember, Myun, when you grow up, you must not be like your mother. Myun tilted her head, confused. Leon froze when a familiar voice cut through the air. What's wrong with being like me? Rosweissa was leaning against the doorway, arms crossed and looking far too amused. Leon flinched, turning away quickly. And nothing at all. Rosweissa entered the room, her sharp gaze scanning the scene. Myun, oblivious, held up Leon's bandaged hand like a trophy. Mom, I wrapped Dad's hand just like you taught me. Rosweissa nodded without a hint of emotion. That's what you should do. Myun clenched her little fists in excitement. Yes, Mom. Leon watched the interaction, thinking, what a strict mother. Kneeling down to Myun's height, Leon patted her head again. Myun, why don't you go hide in the garden? I'll come find you after I count to 100, okay? Myun's eyes sparkled. Really? Dad wants to play hide-and-seek with me? Leon gave a dramatic salute. Unlike your mother, I'll be fair. Go quickly. He began counting. 1, 2, 3. Panicking, Myun dashed off, yelling, Oh no! Dad, don't count so fast. Her tiny figure disappeared outside. As soon as she was gone, Leon's expression turned serious. He glanced at Rosweissa, who was now lounging on the bed. Hey, I'm talking to you. Rosweissa blinked in confusion. What? Leon stood up, pointing a finger. You're being too hard on Myun. Rosweissa crossed her legs, leaning back confidently. Dragons are raised with discipline. Only by being strict from a young age can we cultivate strong warriors. Leon threw his hands up dramatically. But she's not fully dragon. And besides, Myun is so cute. How can you bear to be so harsh on her? Rosweissa looked thoroughly unimpressed. She's a dragon, and calling her cute is an insult to her kind. Leon smirked mischievously. Well, you're pretty cute too. Rosweissa's eyes narrowed dangerously. In an instant, she grabbed him by the collar and snarled. You are nothing more than a slave for me to vent my anger on. Don't get ahead of yourself. Leon, unbothered, made exaggerated puppy eyes. Rosweissa let go of Leon's collar, her expression softening. She adjusted her posture and said in a surprisingly gentle tone, It's good that you understand. I am the queen of the Silver Dragon clan. I have countless government affairs to handle, so the task of raising the children is left to you. Leon blinked in disbelief. Wait, what? Before he could finish, Rosweissa leaned in close, her lips just near his ear, and whispered, "That kid likes you." Leon wandered through the flower-filled garden, muttering to himself, "I'm the Dragon Queen, and I'm too busy blah blah blah. Why does it feel like us dragon slayers have been demoted to babysitters?" He sighed dramatically, kicking at a loose pebble. Then he noticed a small figure peeking out from behind a pillar. Leon smirked, already piecing it together in his head. Myun is too sweet. Does she really think she can hide from me by standing behind me? Pointing his finger dramatically, he shouted, "Found you, Myun!" For a moment, there was silence. Leon stood there like an awkward protagonist from a comedy flick, scratching his head. He thought to himself, wait, why does her expression look angry? Trying to salvage the moment, Leon let out an awkward laugh and rubbed the back of his head. "Myun, sorry for keeping you waiting." But before he could finish, Myun spun on her heels and ran off. Leon called after her, "Myun, what's up?" She vanished into the garden so quickly it was like magic. He blinked, confused, looking around and muttering to himself, "Why are you running, Myun?" He glanced from side to side, but couldn't spot her. "Gone? But I just saw her pass by here." Rubbing the back of his neck, he sighed. "Kids are so unpredictable. No wonder Roswisa dumped this job on me." Then, behind him, Myun crept up silently, like a mischievous little predator. Giggling to herself, she clasped her tiny fists and pounced on him. "Myun caught Dad." Leon stumbled slightly, caught off guard. He looked at her and asked, "Wait, didn't you just run past me?" Myun tilted her head, her face the picture of innocence. "No, Dad couldn't find Myun, so Myun came out to look for Dad." Leon scratched his head again, his confusion growing. Did I imagine it? Before he could question her further, Myun grabbed his hand and started pulling him. "Dad, come here. Myun has something to show you." Okay, I'm coming," Leon said, trailing behind her. But as they walked away, an identical-looking little girl peeked out from behind a tree, watching them with an eerie stillness. Scene shift. A cozy room with Myun at a table. Scribbling away with colored pencils, Myun sat at the table, her tiny hands working furiously on her masterpiece, her tongue poking out in concentration. Leon leaned back in his chair, watching his daughter with amusement. A soft smile crept onto his face as he closed his eyes and thought, having a daughter feels oddly healing. It's like my soul is being patched up one crayon stroke at a time. Suddenly, Myun squealed in excitement, snapping him out of his thoughts. She jumped from her seat, waving her drawing in the air like it was a royal decree. Dad, look!" Myun drew a family portrait. Leon extended his hand to take the paper, his smile widening. "Wow, Myun, you're amazing. Definitely worthy of being Daddy's daughter." He looked at the drawing. 3 figures stood proudly on the paper. But wait, 3? No, there were 4. Leon's smile faltered as he pointed at the 4th figure. "Myun, why are there 2 kids here?" Myun clapped her hands, her eyes sparkling. "That's my sister." Leon's jaw practically hit the floor. "Sister?" The word escaped him before he even realized it. In his mind, images of 2 tiny, identical daughters played like a vivid daydream. Not just one bullseye. 2. He thought, clutching his head. "I didn't just hit the target. I scored a double in one shot." Memories of the garden flashed through his mind. He gasped. "The child I saw earlier. That must have been her. I called her Myun by mistake." No wonder she looked annoyed. Myun, with her innocent little face, tilted her head. No, Dad. Myun thinks sister isn't mad. She's just a little shy because she doesn't know Dad well yet. Leon rubbed his throat, trying to swallow the lump of confusion. That makes sense. We haven't spent time together. It's normal for her to be shy. Then he glanced toward the towering silver dragon castle, his expression sharpening. But this is Roswice's doing, hiding this from me. I'll make her come clean. Scene shift to Roswice's office. Roswice sat at her desk, meticulously reviewing documents. A tiny red dragon perched beside her on the bar, puffing tiny rings of smoke. Suddenly, the door burst open with a loud bang. "Roswice!" Leon yelled, storming into the room like a whirlwind. The little red dragon squawked, leaping into the air in fright. Without even glancing up, Roswice folded the envelope neatly and replied in an even tone, "Where's Myun?" Leon, clearly frustrated, threw his hands on the table. "She want to play with her sister," he said, his voice laced with irritation. Then, leaning forward with a sharp glare, he added, "You're really good at hiding things, Roswisa. When exactly were you planning to tell me I have another daughter?" Roswisa tilted her head slightly, a mischievous smile curling her lips. "Don't you already know this by now?" she replied, her tone light and teasing. Leon's patience snapped like a twig. He slammed his hands on the desk, making a nearby quill jump. "I have to thank you, Roswisa," he said dramatically, his voice carrying a strange blend of sarcasm and sincerity. "Giving birth to a child is no small feat. And yet you didn't stop at one. You went ahead and gave me two. Truly, you've worked so hard." Roswisa's playful expression quickly shifted to the stern glare of an annoyed wife. Unbothered, or perhaps oblivious, Leon kept going, pointing an exaggerated finger at her. "When I return to the Empire, I'll make sure your name is written in bold letters in the family tree. Roswisa, mother of two." Crossing her arms, Roswisa's expression turned smug. "Do you know I didn't tell you about Noah?" Leon, now just as smug, mimicked her stance, arms crossed and all. "Why? Let me guess, you're jealous of how close Myun and I are. So, you kept Noah away from me on purpose." Roswisa raised a brow, leaning forward with a sly grin. "Are you that eager to see her?" Leon's face twisted into a mock pout. "Nonsense. Of course I want to meet her. Unlike you, the cold, stern mother, I actually care about building a good relationship with my kids." Roswisa leaned on the desk, resting her chin on her hand. Her voice turned playful, teasingly low. "All right then, don't regret it." Leon froze for a moment, his expression unreadable as he stared at her. He said nothing, just blinked. The kitchen was a whirlwind of activity. Leon stood at the counter, a knife in his hand, an eerie smile spreading across his face. "Roswisa," he muttered under his breath like a classic villain. "Ha! Today, I'll make you look good." However, instead of a diabolical plot involving dragons, he was furiously chopping carrots. The neatly diced pieces piled up like soldiers on a mission. "Step 1, he muttered, pouring them into a pot. Went over Noah, through her stomach. The rich aroma of cream stew began to fill the room. Stirring the pot with care, Leon thought back to his adventuring days. "I used to make this cream stew all the time. The team loved it. Sweet, creamy, perfect for kids." He lifted a spoon, blowing gently before tasting it. His eyes lit up with pride. "Not bad," he said, grinning. "My skills haven't gone rusty." Leon imagined Noah's excited face as she exclaimed, "Dad's cooking is the best." His chest puffed out, and his nose practically hit the ceiling as his pride skyrocketed. "She'll definitely love this," he said with determination. "Noah will say, 'Dad's food is my favorite.'" He ladled the stew into bowls, the faint sound of laughter echoing in his head. His mission was clear. Win his daughter's heart, one spoonful at a time in the kitchen. Leon was busy preparing dinner when two maids peeked through the window, whispering to each other. One of them sighed, her eyes sparkling. "The prince just recovered from a serious illness, and he's already cooking for his family. He's such a caring man." The other maid looked confused. But before she could say anything, Roswisa entered with her daughters, silencing them immediately. The maids bowed deeply. "Your Majesty." Roswisa glanced at them briefly. "You don't need to wait for orders tonight. Go and rest." The maids bowed again. "Thank you, Your Majesty," they said in unison before leaving. Roswisa walked into the kitchen with Myun and Noah, catching Leon's attention as he stirred a pot. He looked up, smiling. "Ah, you're just in time." Myun sniffed the air, her eyes lighting up. "Dad, what a nice smell." She ran toward him excitedly. Leon chuckled. "I heard you two love me the most, so I made stew and steak just for you." His confidence soared as he imagined their praise, but Noah ignored him completely, glancing to the side with an unreadable expression. Leon froze, his heart sinking. He thought to himself, "Why is she ignoring me?" His gaze shifted to Roswisa, who stood with her arms crossed, a smug expression on her face. This dragon queen must have anticipated this exact situation, which is why she didn't let me meet Noah until now. Roswisa lightly said to Noah, "Noah, this is your first formal meeting. Introduce yourself properly." Noah straightened, radiating confidence as she declared, "I am Kay, Melk's eldest daughter of the Silver Dragon Queen, Roswisa. I am 1 year and 2 months old." Leon blinked, caught off guard by her tone. He knelt down to her height, extending a hand for a handshake. "Hello, Noah." My name is Leon Cosmode, and I am your father. Noah glanced at his hand briefly before replying with a simple, "Oh." Leon's confidence crumbled instantly. Sweat trickled down his temple as he thought, "Why is she so cold? Does she already have a grudge against me?" Myun, noticing his dismay, tugged on Noah's arm. "Sister, please talk more. Don't embarrass Dad." Noah, without hesitation, crossed her arms like her mother and said confidently, "But he looks so weak. Is he really our father?" Leon froze, her words hitting him like a hammer. His shoulders slumped as he thought miserably, "What a filial daughter I have." Family dinners were supposed to be cozy, but for Leon, they were straight-up torture. Sitting at the grand table felt like being under a heavy cloud, with Ross Weiser at the head, calm as a statue, eyes closed like she was meditating or plotting world domination. On her left, Leon forced a grin, glancing at his twin daughters across from him. Cute as can be, but the vibe? Awkward. Muin, the sunshine twin, broke the silence. "Sister, help me cut it," she piped, struggling with her steak like it was a mini-boss. Noah, cool as ice, grabbed the plate and sliced the steak without a word, quick, efficient done. Leon couldn't help but stare. These twins might look alike, but wow, their personalities were on different planets. Muin? Warm, bubbly. Noah? Total mini-Ross, composed, sharp, untouchable. Leon sighed internally. Trying to break the ice, Leon leaned in, grinning wide. "Noah, do you like the food?" His voice practically dripping with hope. Without even looking up, Noah dropped a bomb. "Disgusting." Boom. Right in the chest. Ross Weiser, who'd been silently watching the train wreck, let out a soft chuckle. Ross Weiser quickly slapped a hand over her mouth to hide the grin. But it was too late. The amusement was written all over her face. Muin, the ever-curious one, tilted her head. "Why are you so happy?" Without opening her eyes, Ross Weiss's voice took on a teasing tone. "Your father's finally with us. Seeing him so happy naturally makes me happy too." Her words practically oozed irony as she turned to Leon. "Lips, Leon, why aren't you smiling?" She rested her head on her hand, eyes peeking at him like a cat playing with its prey, fully enjoying his discomfort. Leon, feeling the heat, let out a nervous laugh. "Of course, I'm happy to be with my family," he lied, sweat glistening on his forehead. But deep down, he felt the growing chasm between him and Noah, the daughter he couldn't reach. Muin, totally oblivious to the drama swirling around her, waved a tiny piece of steak in the air. "Dad, can you have dinner with us every day?" Her ocean blue eyes sparkled with pure joy, innocence untainted by all the tension. Leon smiled back at her, but inside, total chaos. "I don't want to eat with a dragon every day," he thought, sneaking a glance at Ross Weiser. Before he could respond, Noah's eyes narrowed into icy slits. "No!" Muin, shocked, jumped up, fist balled at her sides. "Why not?" Muin's voice trembled with surprise, a bit of frustration creeping in. "Why not?" she demanded. Noah, totally unfazed, didn't even blink. "Because I'm enrolling in the Young Dragon department at St. High's Academy," she replied, calm as ever, casually taking another bite of her steak, as if she hadn't just dropped a bomb. The room froze. Even Ross Weiser, usually composed, turned her full attention to Noah. "The Young Dragon Academy is for dragons aged 4 or 5, she said, her tone a mix of surprise and concern. "Why are you so eager to join?" For a second, Ross Weiss's cold demeanor cracked, her eyes softening like she was trying to figure out what was driving her daughter. But Noah? Completely chill. She stabbed another piece of steak like she was discussing lunch, not life-changing decisions. "Because I want to defeat more Dragon Slayers." Leon, mid-sip, nearly choked on his water. "Did I hear that right?" he thought, grabbing a napkin and glancing at Noah, disbelief all over his face. "My own daughter wants to beat me." Trying to keep the mood light, Leon chuckled nervously. "Dragon Slayers are brave, Noah, but you're still young. You could get hurt," he said, voice soft, hoping to steer her away from her wild ambitions. Noah didn't budge. Her eyes narrowed, mirroring Ross Weiss's fierce, icy gaze. She stood, arms crossed, radiating authority far beyond her years. "Don't treat me like a child," she snapped, her tone sharp, commanding, way too mature for her age. Leon winced inside. "But you are a child," he thought. Yet, looking at Noah, so serious and determined, he couldn't bring himself to say it out loud. Before Leon could respond, Ross Wysa leaned back in her chair, Queen mode activated. Noah's idea is awesome. The sooner she learns, the sooner she can take down a Dragon Slayer. She shot a sharp look at Leon. Right, Leon? Any reason to stop Noah from enrolling? Her mocking tone dripped with delight, daring him to push back. Leon's heart sank. Great, just great. He couldn't argue without pushing Noah away more. He needed to tread lightly like balancing on a tightrope. Taking a deep breath, he forced a smile and sliced into his steak. No objections here. Noah can enroll in the Dragon Academy, he said, each word tasting like sour lemons. He glanced at Noah, hoping for a reaction, but she was a total stone face. As they chewed in silence, Leon glared at Ross Wysa, who was munching happily like she hadn't just handed him a defeat. Then it clicked, this was more than just school. Ross Wysa was using Noah to get under his skin, weaving her influence into every bite. In his head, he pictured Ross Wysa wielding her knife like a weapon, a smug grin plastered on her face. She wasn't attacking him outright, but every word and glance from Noah felt like a calculated jab. Ross Wysa was too smart, playing the long game, chipping away at him piece by piece. Leon's grip on his utensils tightened. This isn't over, he thought, waiting for his chance to fight back. A fire ignited in him as he glared at Ross Wysa, his eyes flashing with silent fury. Just you wait, Ross Wysa. You're gonna get your ass kicked later. The tension made his knife and fork clank together sharply, echoing his frustration. But Ross Wysa, completely unfazed, soaking in his discomfort like it was a warm bath. Since your father's on board, it's decided, she said smoothly. The entrance test for St. High's Academy is in a month, and your father will help you prepare. Noah, standing tall, clenched her small fists, determination shining in her eyes. Yes, mother, she replied confidently, nodding like a mini-queen. Leon couldn't help but see how much she mirrored Ross Wysa, willful and fierce. As the meal wrapped up, unease bubbled in Leon's gut. Noah's stoic acceptance and Ross Wysa's smug grin churned inside him like embers, ready to ignite again. But for now, the meal was done, and the battle was just heating up. Ross Wysa stood gracefully as Muin, brimming with energy, rubbed her round belly. Sister, look, my belly's so round, she giggled, her face lighting up. Noah, usually composed, couldn't resist poking her little sister's belly, a faint smirk breaking through. Just as the Dragon Queen was about to leave, Leon called out, "Hey," halting Ross Wysa in her tracks. Ross Wysa turned slightly, her gaze cool and unimpressed, as if she'd already predicted what Leon had to say. But Leon wasn't backing down. He gestured toward the messy table. "These plates haven't been cleaned yet," he said, locking eyes with her. She folded her arms, brow furrowing in mild confusion. "Just let the servants handle it," she replied, her tone dismissive. Leon stepped closer, his demeanor shifting. Placing a hand on her shoulder, he leaned in, voice serious. "After dinner, couples clean up together. That's how you wrap up a family meal." He lowered his voice, breath brushing her ear. "Don't you want to create a harmonious family atmosphere for the kids? Even if it's just for show?" Tension crackled in the air, the room silent, with Muin and Noah blissfully unaware of their parents' standoff. Ross Wysa's eyes narrowed as she considered his words, a challenge hanging between them. She turned away, gaze softening at Muin, who looked up with sparkling admiration. With no retort, Ross Wysa closed her eyes, a reluctant sign of acceptance. Muin, eager to help, raised her hand. "I'll help clean up too," she chirped, glowing with excitement. But Noah, always practical, knew this moment wasn't for them. With a swift motion, she yanked Muin by the collar, pulling her away. "Sister, where are we going?" Muin cried out, legs flailing as Noah dragged her from the room. Noah's face was a total mystery, her calm vibe a mini mirror of her mom's as she guided Muin out, leaving Leon and Ross Wysa in an awkward silence. As the girls skipped away, Ross Wysa started stacking dirty dishes in the sink. With effortless flair, she threw on an apron, tying it like a pro. Leon leaned back in a chair, arms crossed, eyes glued to her flowing silver hair. Catching him staring, Ross Wysa shot him a narrowed gaze. "When are you gonna help?" she asked, tone sharp but casual, like this was routine. Leon grinned, confidence oozing. "Ross Wysa," he said, voice low and commanding. "Remember what I said 2 years ago?" A flicker of surprise crossed her face as her purple mark glowed brighter, reacting to his words. He leaned closer, his eyes locked on hers. "You shouldn't be alone with the strongest dragon slayer," he warned, confidence dripping from every word. Ross Wysa turned to face him fully, dishes forgotten. "What do you want to do?" she asked, calm but challenging. Leon's sigil lit up too, casting a mysterious glow as unspoken power simmered between them. His eyes narrowed, recalling a time when he'd felt completely vulnerable. Ian remembered how Ross Wysa had played with his dragon sigil, but this time, he was the one in control. She, however, wasn't impressed by his newfound confidence. "Don't think you can escape with the same old tricks," she hissed, anger lacing her words. With a flick of her long silver tail, she aimed for him, but Leon didn't flinch. Quick as lightning, he caught her tail mid-swing, the room holding its breath. Rising from his chair, dark hair partially obscuring his face, he lowered his voice to a dangerous whisper. "Who said anything about running?" The strength of his grip sent a shock through Ross Wysa, leaving her gasping. Her cheeks flushed crimson, a stark contrast to her usual cool demeanor. Her tail, her most sensitive spot, betrayed her, shattering her composure in seconds. With a choked scream, she fell to her knees, breath ragged. The proud dragon queen was suddenly vulnerable, knelt before him as the tension crackled in the air. Leon lifted her tail higher, his grip steady. "Your dragon pattern makes your tail incredibly sensitive," he murmured, calm yet dominant. "Held like this, you're no different from a kitten being scruffed, completely at my mercy." He looked down at her, her fierce posture crumbling. Her pride and strength faded under the weight of his knowledge, and his smile widened. "I learned this little secret from your dragon book. You dragons love to conquer, but look at you now." Leon leaned in closer, a sly grin on his face. "But tell me, have you ever been conquered?" Ross Wysa's eyes widened, his words crashing over her like a tidal wave. Heat flooded her body, her heart racing as she felt herself betray her usual composure. His grip, his confidence, and the knowledge he wielded were overwhelming. For the first time, she was at a loss for words, breath quickening as the once unshakable dragon queen found herself powerless in his grasp. Ross Wysa panted, heat rising in her body, cheeks flaming red. The kitchen, now bathed in moonlight, glowed around her trembling form. She struggled to stay upright, legs barely cooperating. "Let go of my tail," she gasped, turning to Leon. But nope, Leon's grip stayed firm, his eyes piercing. "Since I woke up, you've treated me like a toy," he said coolly, a smug edge creeping in. His smirk grew. "How about we switch things up tonight?" Ross's fury flared. "Leon, you bastard," she hissed, but her body refused to move, still pinned by his grip. The once untouchable dragon queen, now stuck in a game she hadn't signed up for. Suddenly, footsteps. They froze, eyes snapping to the door. Two maids outside giggled. "Think Her Majesty's done with her quality time?" Busted. The door creaked open, and in tiptoed two maids, giggling under the soft moonlight that revealed an oddly spotless kitchen. "Did the prince clean up?" One whispered, wide-eyed, picking up a shiny plate like she'd struck gold. Their task for the night just got a whole lot easier, and they were loving it. Meanwhile, in the barely cracked open storage room, Leon watched with a smug grin. As the maids marveled at the kitchen's cleanliness, Leon pulled Ross Wysa close, his arms sliding around her waist. She froze, her face flaming as the warmth of his body pressed against her in the chilly room. Before she could make a sound, his hand covered her mouth, firm but gentle. His breath tickled her ear. "Wouldn't want the maids to find us now, would we?" he teased, voice low and playful. Ross Wysa's heart raced, caught in the web of secrecy. Despite the fire in her eyes, she was stuck, trapped by Leon's grip, the thrill of it all leaving her powerless. The maids left with a bang, their chatter fading into silence. Ross Wysa, cheeks still hot, shot a sharp glare at Leon. Her purple eyes locked onto his, defiant. Leon, not fazed, leaned in, cheek brushing hers, breath warm on her skin. His hand gripped her jaw, both firm and intimate. "Well done," he whispered, voice dripping with smug satisfaction. "Now let's begin, my dear wife," he teased, lips curling into a triumphant smile. Ross Wysa tensed, gritting her teeth, hating every second of her vulnerable position. Her pride crumbled, her fire dimmed. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in her sharp gaze. 3 days later, sunlight poured into the Dragon Queen's castle. Leon slept soundly, oblivious to the two tiny figures perched on his bed. Myun, eyes wide with worry, leaned closer. Dad hasn't woken up in 3 days. Is he dead? She asked, voice soft with concern. Her sister Noah, ice cold as ever, didn't flinch. Just wait. Without warning, Noah stood and delivered a swift kick to Leon's cheek. He jolted awake, wincing from the force, as Noah pressed her foot harder, arms crossed, face stern. No mercy. He's not dead yet, Noah muttered, unimpressed by her dad's lack of response. Leon's mind spun. Who else gets kicked awake by their own kid? With a groan, he blinked against the sunlight, Myun's face popping into view, beaming down at him. Dad's awake, she squealed, bouncing on his bed in delight. Meanwhile, Noah stood at the foot, arms crossed, still ice cold. Leon sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. When did I faint? He mumbled, his body heavy with exhaustion. Across the room, Ross Weiss stood by the mirror, fixing her makeup, her silver hair cascading over her shoulders. She turned just enough to catch his eye, her voice chilling. Need help remembering? Leon froze. His heart skipped a beat. Oh no. I remember now. The dragon pattern deactivated then. She hit me. He replayed the memory as his gaze drifted back to Ross Weiss. Her long silver braid brushed the tip of her elegant tail as she casually fixed her hair. She was beautiful, but Leon knew better than to be fooled. This dragon is ruthless. If I were just an ordinary guy, Leon mused, narrowing his eyes, I'd be dead by now. Despite the bitter thoughts swirling in Leon's mind, he couldn't look away. Ross Weiss moved with a grace that was almost too perfect, the sunlight filtering through the window casting her in a soft, ethereal glow. For a 200-year-old dragon queen, she's stunning, Leon admitted, unable to stop tracing the outline of her figure with his eyes. Myun, watching in silence, asked, Why isn't Dad moving? Her voice filled with concern. Noah, ever the sharp one, folded her arms and replied coolly, He's staring at Mom. Totally stunned. The judgment in her voice was clear. Ross Weiss, lost in her own thoughts as she reached for a hairpin, fumbled it, the delicate purple flower clip slipping to the floor. Before she could react, Leon was there, quietly picking it up. Without a word, he stood behind her, gently securing the pin in her silvery hair. This one's beautiful, he murmured, admiring how it complemented her. Suits you well. For a moment, Ross Weiss was caught off guard by his tenderness. But then, her smirk returned, eyes narrowing as she regained her cool. Didn't expect you to be so thoughtful, she teased, her tone mocking. Have you done this for other women before? Her voice was playful, but there was a flicker of curiosity underneath, acknowledging a side of Leon she hadn't anticipated. Leon, unimpressed by Ross Weiss's jab, folded his arms and smirked. When I was a kid, I used to comb my master's donkey. Got pretty skilled at it. Myun's eyes widened. Dad, what's a donkey? She asked, all innocence. Leon grinned mischievously. Donkeys? They're a lot like dragons, he said, mimicking long ears with his fingers. 2 ears, a tail, stubborn as rocks, and when they're mad, they make a low, humming sound. Just like your mother. Bam! Ross Weiss's fist slammed into his stomach, cutting off his breath. Leon doubled over with a wince. Keep talking, Leon, Ross Weiss said coldly, her eyes flashing a warning. Despite the pain, Leon chuckled through the grimace, exactly the reaction he'd expected. Myun rushed to his side. Dad, are you okay? She asked, her voice soft with worry. Leon, still wincing, gave a tight smile. I'm fine. Meanwhile, Noah stood by, arms crossed, silently judging his failed mockery. Ross Weiss, ever composed, turned her attention to the girls. Today's task is learning to write your names, she declared. Your father will teach you. Leon, still recovering from the punch, shot her a glare. Assigning me more tasks without asking, huh? Leon grumbled under his breath, clearly unimpressed by Ross Weiss's latest decree. Meanwhile, Myun was practically bouncing with excitement. Dad's gonna teach us to write, she squealed, arms in the air. On the flip side, Noah stayed cool as ever. I can already write, she said flatly, clearly unimpressed. But Myun wasn't deterred. She grabbed her sister's hand, pulling her along. Let's find pens with pretty colors. Which one do you want? Noah, barely reacting, replied, purple. And off they went, leaving Leon alone with Ross Weiss. Turning to him, her sharp eyes cut through the air. My sister is visiting today, she said firmly. I don't want you appearing in front of her. Leon blinked, a sly smile creeping onto his face. Oh, now I'm not allowed to meet your family, he teased, clearly enjoying the game. Ross Weiss leaned in, her breath warm against his ear. Leon coast-mode. You're a male dragon married into the Silver Dragon clan. You've been in a coma for 2 years and just woke up recently. Her voice carried a deadly sweet warning. If you meet her, you'll play the part. She tapped his chest, a smile playing on her lips. Leon, momentarily thrown, muttered, "Got it, your majesty." As she left the room, her footsteps fading, a devilish grin spread across his face. You think I'll just follow orders so easily, female dragon? He thought, his eyes gleaming with mischief. Leon thought with a smirk, his determination hardening. I'm going to embarrass you in front of your sister. Oh, the chaos he was ready to unleash. Scene opens with the moon casting a soft, silver glow over the grand entrance of the Silver Dragon Castle. The atmosphere is peaceful, but there's tension in the air. Ross Weiss stands next to her elder sister, Isabella, who is preparing to leave with her guards. Isabella, her fiery red hair glowing in the moonlight, smiles warmly at her little sister. Isabella, smiling, "Well, I'll be off for today." Ross Weiss, softly but sincere, "Sister, be careful on the road." Isabella waves. Then, in a flash of red and gold, she transforms into her magnificent dragon form. Her molten lava-like scales gleam as her massive wings unfold, and her ruby eyes gleam down at Ross Weiss. Isabella, teasingly, "Next time, make sure I meet your husband." With a powerful beat of her wings, Isabella launches into the sky, her guards following behind. Ross Weiss watches as they disappear into the distance, silhouetted against the velvet night. The soft smile on Ross Weiss's face suddenly fades, replaced by a dark frown. Her expression hardens, and her calm demeanor vanishes. Ross Weiss thought, fuming, "Damn Dragon Slayer. He hasn't learned his lesson yet." She turns sharply, her determined steps echoing as she storms back toward the castle. Ross Weiss thought, "But tonight he will. I'll make sure of it." Her eyes blaze with anger and resolve. There would be no mercy tonight. Meanwhile, in the far corner of the castle, Leon sneezing, rubbing his nose with a confused look. Is that Dragon Queen cursing me? He sits in a quiet room, watching over his sleeping daughters, Noah and Muin. The book in his hand, the story of the young dragon, lies open on his lap. Leon gently tucks his daughter's covers closer, making sure the night's chill doesn't disturb their peaceful sleep. He stands by their beds for a moment, gazing fondly at their serene faces before carefully moving toward the door. His fingers hover over the doorknob, ready to leave silently. But just as he begins to turn the handle, a sudden thud startles him. His heart skips a beat as he slowly turns his head. Ross Weiss's hand is pressed firmly against the door, her intense gaze burning into him. Leon nervously chuckling. So, about earlier. Ross Weiss says nothing, but her eyes speak volumes. Leon gulps. He knows what's coming. Scene opens with Ross Weiss towering over Leon, her purple eyes gleaming dangerously. Her imposing presence makes the air feel thick with tension. Leon tries to act casual, but it's a losing battle. Ross Weiss, low and menacing. "Where do you think you're going?" Leon blinks, trying to maintain his composure, but the beads of sweat on his forehead give him away. Leon, voice wavering. "Your sister's gone already?" He forces a wry smile, but it doesn't fool anyone, least of all Ross Weiss. Her brow twitches and she leans in closer, her eyes narrowing as she smiles slyly, flashing her pearly white teeth. Ross Weiss, authoritative, sly. "We still have unfinished business today." Before Leon can even blink, Ross Weiss grabs the collar of his white shirt with surprising force, yanking him backward. His arms and legs flail as he stumbles, trying to free himself. Leon, panicked, flailing. "Wait! Hold on! Wait!" Ross Weiss ignores his protests, dragging him effortlessly down the hallway with a pace that leaves no room for escape. Leon's eyes widen in horror, fully aware that there is no escaping her tonight. The scene shifts to the Silver Dragon Queen's opulent bedroom. The soft, pearl-white lights cast a serene glow over the room, highlighting the elegant gold and silver decor. It feels royal, sophisticated, yet there's an underlying tension in the air. Leon kneels on the plush carpet, carefully placing a large rounded wooden pot filled with steaming hot water at his feet. He glances up at Roswisa, a mix of confusion and curiosity written all over his face. Leon, uncertain. The hot water's here. What? Do you want it for? Roswisa lounges on the edge of her luxurious bed, one leg casually crossed over the other. She leans slightly to her right, her gaze fixed on Leon with calm authority. Roswisa, calm but firm, I've been walking all day. I'm tired. Her voice is composed, but there's no mistaking the command hidden in her words. The scene continues in Roswisa's opulent bedroom, where the tension between her and Leon thickens as she stretches out her long, graceful legs toward him, nudging his hand with her heel. Roswisa, commanding, wash my feet for me. Leon blinks, momentarily taken aback by her unexpected request. He stares at her, confusion clouding his features, unsure if she's serious. Leon, stammering, wash your feet. Roswisa's patience thins, her eyes narrowing with displeasure as she leans slightly forward. Roswisa, voice sharpening, stop talking nonsense and do as you're told. This is your punishment for what you did today. The weight of her words leaves no room for argument. Leon grits his teeth in silence, lowering his gaze as he reluctantly complies. He reaches for one of her shoes, slipping it off with care, revealing her slender foot. As he places the shoe aside, the reality of his situation sinks in. Leon, bitterly to himself, I'm a dragon slayer, but now I'm reduced to washing Roswisa's feet. Barely concealing his irritation, he carefully removes Roswisa's long, white stockings, exposing her pale, flawless foot. He stares at it, his mind racing with frustration. Leon thought, the damn dragon queen really knows how to indulge herself. I can only imagine how many dragon slayers she stepped on with these feet. Despite his inner turmoil, the commanding aura emanating from Roswisa leaves him no choice but to obey. Noticing Leon's prolonged stare, Roswisa frowns, her confusion evident. Roswisa thought, why is he staring at my feet? Leon's playful grin spreads across his face, making her eyes widen in realization. Her cheeks flush bright red. Roswisa thought, alarmed. Could it be? Does Leon have some strange, disgusting habit? Before her imagination can spiral further, Leon abruptly dips her foot into the steaming hot water, a little more forcefully than necessary. His hands move with confidence, and a smirk plays on his lips as he watches her reaction. Roswisa, taken aback. Ouch! It's so hot. Her initial surprise quickly transforms into discomfort as her foot soaks in the near-boiling water. Without a second thought, Roswisa lashes out with a swift kick, her foot connecting squarely with Leon's chin. The force of the blow catches Leon off guard. Blood spurts from his mouth as his eyes roll back, dazed by the impact. Leon, staggering, voice slurred. Guess that's what I get for being too cheeky. Roswisa, mock serious. Next time, perhaps you'll think twice before being so bold. The playful banter continues, setting the stage for a dynamic that blurs the lines between punishment and camaraderie. Scene continues with Leon lying stunned on the floor, gasping for breath after Roswisa's powerful kick. He stares up at the ceiling, disoriented, feeling the lingering taste of blood in his mouth, a harsh reminder of her strength. Roswisa stands tall, her cheeks flushed with a mix of frustration and embarrassment. She narrows her eyes at Leon, letting out a sharp breath. Roswisa, coldly, you're trying to get back at me on purpose, aren't you? She rests her hand on her hip and lifts her leg, planting her foot firmly on Leon's chest, pinning him down. Leon tries to gather his composure, a teasing grin forming despite the pain. Leon, mockingly, who asked me to wash your feet? Roswisa's brows furrowed deeper, her unamused expression returning. Roswisa, sternly, it seems you still haven't learned your lesson. Her icy demeanor hardens as she looks down at him. Roswisa, you never thought that one day you'd be under my foot, did you? With deliberate slowness, her wet foot slides down his chest, leaving a damp trail on his white shirt, stopping just above his crotch. Without warning, she presses down hard, causing Leon to wince in agony. Leon, shocked, barely managing to choke out, Please. Stop." His face turns red from both the pain and the unsettling mix of emotions swirling inside him. Inwardly, he curses himself. Leon, thought frustrated, damn. This is humiliating. He shakes the thought away, pride wounded as he struggles beneath her. Rosweiss's lips curl into a sly smile as she watches him squirm, her foot remaining firmly pressed down. Rosweissa, teasing, let's see how long you can endure. Her voice is laced with amusement, her grin widening as she revels in her power over him. Leon's brow furrows in discomfort, one eye squeezed shut as he fights against the searing pain. Leon thought defiantly, no, I cannot succumb to the tyranny of this dragon queen. As the pressure intensifies, something inside him snaps. With newfound determination, he grips Rosweiss's pale, delicate foot, fingers curling around her ankle. In one swift motion, he removes her leg from his crotch, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. Leon, playfully, I've eaten pigs trotters, cows trotters, and goat trotters. This is just another challenge. Rosweiss's eyes widen in surprise, and her surprise quickly morphs into laughter as she realizes he's turned the situation on its head. The power dynamic shifts slightly, and she can't help but appreciate his audacity. Rosweiss's eyes widen, her usual confidence crumbling in an instant. Rosweissa, gasping shocked. What are you doing? Panic replaces the playful dominance she held moments ago. Before she can react, Leon leans in and bites down on her foot. A jolt of unexpected pain shoots through her, and a high-pitched scream erupts from her throat, echoing through the vast halls of the castle. Rosweissa, furiously, Leon Cos mode, I'm going to kill you. Her furious roar reverberates through the walls, shaking the very foundation of the Silver Dragon Castle. The scene shifts to the next morning in the grand halls, where the atmosphere is thick with curiosity. Noah stands with her arms folded, her expression calm but curious. Beside her, Muin rubs her eye with a small hand, gazing up in confusion, her mouth slightly open as she tries to comprehend the scene before her. In front of them, Rosweissa stands with her arms crossed, eyes closed, struggling to maintain her usual regal composure. Muin, ever curious, tilts her head and asks, Muin, Mom, why are you limping? Her wide eyes trail down to Rosweissa's legs, noting the left clad in its usual elegant stocking, while the right is awkwardly bandaged, covering the bite mark left by Leon. Rosweissa, coolly with irritation, it's nothing. Muin, unsatisfied, shifts her gaze to Leon, who is standing nearby, cheeks swollen and covered in cotton wool and tape. Muin, concerned, Dad, why do you have bruises on your face? Leon tries to appear nonchalant despite the clear evidence of his rough night, managing a weak smile. Leon, echoing Rosweissa, it's nothing. Muin's frustration mounts at the lack of clear answers. Planting both hands on her hips, her young mind buzzes with curiosity, trying to piece together what could have caused both her parents to be injured. Muin, suddenly excited, oh, you must have played some fun games last night without telling me. I want to play too. Her innocent face beams with enthusiasm, completely oblivious to the truth behind the situation. Noah stands beside her little sister, left dumbfounded. She remains quiet, knowing all too well that Muin has no idea what kind of games their parents had really been playing. In the garden outside Silver Dragon Castle, the sunlight poured over the blooms like honey, casting warmth and light on everything it touched. Water droplets slipped from a hanging pot, each one hitting the ground in a soft rhythm, blending with the quiet rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. Leon and Rosweissa walked side by side, an invisible wall standing between them. Leon's hands were jammed in his pockets, his gaze darkened by frustration, while Rose walked a step ahead, her graceful stride a touch sharper than usual. Two dragons maiden, watching the scene unfold. One nudged the other, eyes glinting with mischief. Look at that, the queen and the prince. A perfect match on paper, he teased, his voice dripping with irony. The other dragon chuckled, flicking his tail. Sure, they look nice together, but don't you feel something's off? It's like watching two strangers. Their words seemed to linger, and Leon and Rose both faltered, casting a brief, almost cautious glance at each other. In that one look, everything unspoken hovered between them, a mixture of hurt, pride, and the weariness that comes from endless misunderstandings. Rose's gaze fell, and she turned her head quickly, picking up her pace. Leon, lost in thought, trailed behind. How did it come to this? He wondered, his mind pulling him back to their tense exchange earlier. Why should I even go on this walk? Rose had demanded, arms crossed and gaze unwavering. You're part of this family too, Leon. Keeping up the appearance of unity is as much your job as it is mine. Now, with the vibrant colors of the garden around them, Leon couldn't help but feel a shift in her. There was something different, something uncertain in her usually unbreakable composure. What's going on with her? He asked himself, his thoughts tangled in the quiet frustration of trying to understand her without the words to bridge the gap. Meanwhile, behind a large tree, their daughters Myun and Noah peered around the trunk, eyes wide with curiosity. Myun, always the more mischievous, elbowed her sister and stifled a giggle. Look at him, she whispered with a smirk. He can't even hold her hand. Clueless, as always. Noah tried not to laugh, but the sight of her parents' awkward dance of silence was enough to crack a smile. Myun's eyes sparkled with excitement, and with a quick clench of her little fists, she made up her mind. Myun's going to help them, she declared, her voice tinged with fierce determination. Noah, calm and composed as ever, sighed and shook her head. Just leave them alone, she whispered, her tone gentle but steady. But before she could hold her back, Myun was off, her tiny legs carrying her swiftly toward their parents. A gleam of mischief lit her face as she darted forward, determined to play her part in bringing her parents closer. Bounding up to them, Myun's voice rang out, clear and bright. Mom, Dad! Leon and Rose turned, startled by their daughter's sudden appearance, their thoughts interrupted. Myun, why did you follow us? Leon asked, his voice a mix of surprise and concern. Ignoring the question, Myun wrapped her small hands around each of theirs, her fingers curling over their larger hands and pulling them together. When you take a walk, you're supposed to hold hands, she said with a giggle, her innocent smile lighting up her whole face. Caught off guard, Leon and Rose stood frozen, staring at their linked hands in stunned silence. Myun grinned at her victory and skipped away, calling over her shoulder, Now Myun's going to play with sister. Leon watched her prance back, a bemused smile tugging at his lips. Where does she get these ideas? He wondered, shaking his head. A little farther off, Noah had her hands full, literally. Myun barely had a second to catch her breath before Noah descended on her, grabbing her cheeks in a pinch of sibling fury. Myun's face crumpled, and she let out a whimper. Boo-boo, Myun was wrong. Myun won't do it again, sister. Please let go. Back in the garden, Leon and Rose stood with their hands still clasped, neither quite ready to let go. A deep flush crept over Rose's cheeks as she looked away, her hands suddenly too warm. Leon scratched the back of his head awkwardly, his voice a mumble. This is unexpected. What now? In the silence, a soft chuckle escaped Rose. She looked at him, a glint of amusement in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Rose closed her eyes, her cheeks tinged pink as she tried to mask her embarrassment. It's fine. Just hold it like this. It's not a big deal, she murmured, though her voice hinted at her discomfort. Leon couldn't resist a smile, sensing her unease. You're being extra docile today. Not sure what to make of it, he teased gently, his tone light but playful. Behind the nearby tree, Noah and Myun peeked out, their eyes glinting with mischief as they observed their parents with growing amusement. Rose's lips curved into a smirk, her eyes still closed as she shot back. Seems like I've tamed you, Leon. Being alone with me throws you off, doesn't it? Leon's gaze softened as he looked at her, his thoughts drifting. Rose had always been the picture of a queen, strong and poised, a model of composure for everyone around her. But maybe her distant demeanor wasn't coldness. Maybe it was just uncertainty, a queen uncertain how to bridge the gap, even with her own children. They continued walking hand in hand through the garden, and for a moment, the two of them looked like any ordinary couple. Leon eventually broke the silence, clearing his throat. You know, Myun and Noah always call you mother in front of you. Rose glanced at him, her brow slightly furrowed. Is there a problem with that? Leon's grin turned mischievous, his eyes gleaming with humor. Well, they call me Dad, and it feels warmer somehow. But mother? Sounds a bit formal, don't you think? Rose raised an eyebrow, her irritation flickering to the surface. Is there really such a big difference between mother and mom? Leon's grin grew, bright and almost impish. Of course. Just imagine. Mom, Feels more personal, right? I bet if they called you that, they'd feel even closer to you. Rose's expression softened, his words settling somewhere deep. She looked down at their clasped hands, then back at Leon, a hint of warmth in her gaze. Maybe you're right, she said quietly, the idea making her heart flutter just a little. Rose's cheeks warmed as she glanced away, caught off guard by his suggestion. Fine, got it, she muttered, giving his hand a tug as she pulled him forward. I'll try next time. Leon chuckled, stumbling slightly to keep up with her sudden brisk pace. Hey, why the rush? Did I say something wrong? They strolled together, hand in hand, toward a large, imposing warehouse near the castle. The silence between them was oddly comfortable, and as they neared the building, Rose glanced at him thoughtfully. Hey, Leon, do you ever feel homesick? Leon raised an eyebrow, surprised by the question. Why ask? Not like you'd let me go back anyway. Rose's expression softened, a faint vulnerability flickering in her gaze. True, I can't let you go back. But maybe I can do something to make it a little easier for you. They stopped in front of the towering warehouse doors, and Leon looked up, intrigued. What is this place? Rose held up a key, a small smile playing on her lips. No grand name really, just a warehouse. Or a utility room, if you prefer. She unlocked the door, pushing it open to reveal the treasures within. Leon's jaw dropped as he took in the sight. Golden artifacts, jeweled trinkets, rare pieces glinting under the dim light. His gaze landed on a sleek sports bracelet, his eyes lighting up. This, it's like a dragon's hoard. That bracelet alone could fetch a fortune back in the Empire. Rose folded her arms, watching his reaction with an amused smile. That one? My grandmother gave it to me when I was little. A lot of these things mean something to me. Leon looked at her, genuinely curious. I haven't heard much about your family, apart from your sister. Rose's expression softened, her voice quieter. I never knew my parents. It was just my sister and me, raised by our grandmother. She hesitated, a glint of wistfulness in her eyes. Leon's gaze softened as he looked at her. For a moment, they were just two people, bound by a shared sense of longing. Leon's face softened, a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. I know how that feels, he said quietly. I grew up in orphanage, raised by my master and his wife. Never met my parents either. A warm smile spread across his face as he looked back at her, his tone lightening. So, what exactly did you want to show me here? Rose opened a box, her expression both gentle and resolute. I thought you might want something to ease your troubles. If only for a little while? Curious, Leon leaned forward, only for his breath to hitch as his eyes fell on the contents, a gleaming black gold armor, unmistakable in its intricate design. Recognition flashed through him as he took a shaky breath, barely daring to believe it. Am I dreaming? Are you really giving this to me? Rose's smile deepened, her gaze taking on a playful edge. That's right. Leon reached out, his fingertips brushing the cool surface of the armor. The instant his skin made contact, a radiant blue light pulsed from within, forming the shape of an enchanted dragon mark that glowed on the armor's chest. Leon's hand stilled, his heart sinking as memories surged forward. The enchanted dragon mark. Black gold armor, my old friend. How did you end up here? Watching his reaction, Rose crossed her arms, her smile turning wicked. Looks like you've finally fallen right into my trap, Leon. Leon's jaw clenched as he glared up at her, a spark of frustration mixing with admiration. Thanks for hanging out till the end of this video. In the last video, we saw Leon get tricked by Ross Weissa. If you missed it, check the link in the description for the full story. Now, let's dive into the next part. At that intense moment, Ross Weissa floated in the air, arms crossed, and looking down at Leon with a stare so fierce it could singe. Leon, realizing he'd been outsmarted, threw his hands up. Ross Weissa, what did you do? The dragon mark on his chest began to glow like a neon sign, and a magic circle flared up beneath his feet. Ross smirked, tossing her hair back with the confidence of someone who just pulled off the prank of the century. Oh, just a little dragon seal on your armor. Nothing major, except it activates the moment you touch it. She winked, her voice dripping with mock innocence. Leon felt his knees buckle as his strength drained, almost like he'd accidentally tried to lift a dragon instead of slay one. Despicable. Female dragon. I let my guard down. He clutched his chest, where the dragon mark blazed like a furnace, casting shadows around him as Ross Wysa leaned closer, clearly enjoying the show. The enhanced dragon mark doubles its effect, she said, gripping his chin and tilting his head up to meet her gaze. Tell me, my poor dragon slayer, do you think you can handle it? She said it with a mixture of menace and... Was that a hint of mischief? Leon grit his teeth, every muscle trembling as he spat out, Ross Wysa. His pride was hanging by a thread, but she didn't seem to care. With a smug little chuckle, she released his chin, letting him crumple to the ground like a doll. On the ground, Leon grumbled to himself, trying to force his limbs to move. Curse it, I'm stuck. But this urge, it's burning stronger than ever, he thought, half furious, half incredulous. Ross leaned down, her cheeks a bit pink, and whispered, Did you really think I'd just forget about what happened last time, my dear dragon slayer? She was close enough that Leon felt the heat from her breath, and the tension was so thick you could slice it with a dagger. These past few days I've been plotting, just waiting for you to let your guard down, though I didn't expect it'd be so easy. Her voice was almost a purr. Leon's eyes blazed with indignation as he grumbled back, You treacherous female dragon. Ross smirked again. Oh, and how's my acting? Not bad, right? Leon scowled, almost pouty. So all of it was fake, huh? Everything you told me? I haven't seen my parents. Oh, let's let me in, call me Mom. Hold my hand. His voice was dripping with sarcastic bitterness. Ross couldn't help but snicker, tossing him a sly grin. Oh, Leon, did you really think I was that sentimental? Honestly, I'm a little disappointed in you. With a mischievous smile, Ross Wysa replied, Oh, that part's true. But it doesn't change what I'm going to do now. She slowly removed her dress, revealing her smooth skin, each movement graceful and deliberate. Remind me, Leon, didn't you once ask if I liked to conquer? With a flushed, playful smile, she added, Turns out, I do. She pressed closer, her chest against his, whispering into his ear, Are you ready, my dear husband? The air crackled with tension, and stars seemed to swirl around Leon's head. He clenched his teeth, fighting a mix of emotions that flooded over him. Damn. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold up, everyone. This scene right here? Yeah, it's VIP only, exclusive for our subscribers. Want to catch the full scoop? To catch the full story, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that button, and maybe, just maybe, you'll see this part in your dreams tonight. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, on to the story. After a while, Leon lay on the ground, exhausted, water dripping from his eyes like he'd just survived a monsoon. He thought, finally, it's over. But just as he started to catch his breath, Ross Wysa leaned over, her tail playfully resting on his chest with that ever-present mischievous smile. Leon looked up at her, confused and still a bit dazed. What are you doing? He asked, half amused and half wary. Ross Wysa tilted his face toward her, observing him closely, her expression a mix of curiosity and mischief. Compared to 2 years ago, the scars have faded a bit. But now, you've got this rugged, world-weary look. Almost mature, she teased, a glint of laughter in her eyes as she took in his disheveled state. Annoyed, Leon pushed her back, sitting up with a grunt. You're trying to mess with me again? I won't fall for it this time, he declared, puffing out his chest like a bird trying to assert dominance. An awkward silence hung between them, thick enough to cut with a knife. Ross Wysa put her dress back on, glancing over her shoulder with a playful smirk. Seems you're getting smarter. But she donned an innocent expression that was anything but, then added, You're not in the same shape as you used to be. Her words hung in the air, and Leon could practically feel the teasing weight of them pressing down on him. Leon froze, her words hitting him hard like a surprise spell. Not as fit as before, he thought, feeling a pang in his pride. He looked down at himself, wondering if he'd somehow turned into a sack of potatoes in the last couple of years. Suddenly, his annoyance flared, and he snapped, Ross Wysa. The next morning, a knock at Leon's door broke the silence, sounding like a sudden alarm in the stillness. He opened it, looking weary, with dark circles under his eyes that suggested he'd been battling nightmares instead of dragons. Standing there were his wife and daughter. Ross Wysa smirked, her eyes glinting with mischief. Good morning. In a playful tone, she added, Looks like you didn't sleep well. What did you do? Toss and turn all night dreaming about me? Leon gritted his teeth, the irritation simmering just beneath the surface. That's because of what you said last night, he replied, trying to suppress the blush creeping up his cheeks. Ross Weisse chuckled, feigning innocence. Oh, I don't remember anything that could possibly keep you up. Unless you were having dreams of your mature self. From a distance, Noah watched them with a mixture of bemusement and exasperation. Here they go again, she thought, rolling her eyes at the familiar exchange. Ross Weisse glanced at Noah, then turned back to Leon, her tone shifting to something more serious. St. Heath Academy's entrance exam is strict. You should start tutoring Noah in dragon lore today. Leaning closer, she whispered with a sly smirk. After all, there are other ways for you to show your worth for now. Irritated, Leon shot back. I was just not in top form yesterday. He waved his hands in exaggerated frustration, feeling like he was defending himself against a dragon's breath. Pointing at her dramatically, he continued, Fine, I'll help with the study, but I want something in return for my efforts. Ross Weisse crossed her arms, her smile dripping with mockery. I'll agree to your request, as long as it's not too excessive, like asking for a pet dragon or something equally ridiculous. Leon grinned, a sparkle of determination in his eyes. A promise is a promise. Without looking back, Ross Weisse walked away, calling over her shoulder, Then study hard, dear. Just don't wear yourself out. Again. Hearing that, Leon shouted in frustration at Ross Weisse. You're really done now, female dragon. He crossed his arms, glaring at her retreating figure, as if she were a particularly troublesome beast he could conquer. Just then, Noah approached, noticing her father's irritated mood. Why did you and Mom argue? She asked coolly, her tone as flat as a dragon's tail. Leon crossed his arms, trying to brush it off. Oh, just daily communication. You know, the kind that involves a lot of eye-rolling. Then he paused, realizing something. Wait a minute. What did you just call her? Noah's expression didn't change as she replied, Mom. You know, the usual title of affection? Leon's eyes lit up, and he quickly knelt down to Noah's height. Did she ask you to change what you call her? Do you prefer the old name or the new one? I'm taking a poll here. With her dragon encyclopedia clutched in her hand, Noah looked off to the side, blushing slightly. The current one. It's short and sweet, just like dragons. Leon's smile softened. See? I told you you'd like it. Who wouldn't want to call their mom something as cool as Mom instead of that dragon lady who hogs the bed? Noah, flustered and caught off guard, turned away with her book in hand and asked, When are we starting the lesson then? I've got dragon battles to prepare for. Seeing her head off, Leon hurried after her. Hey, no, wait up. I'll be right there. Just let me find my dragon hunting gear. In the last video of this series, we witnessed some intense moments as Ross Weisse completely blindsided Leon, not just in the usual way. After catching him off guard in their own playful way, she left him with a mission: start teaching their daughter and help her prepare for the Dragon Academy entrance exam. If you missed the last episode, check out the link in the description to catch up. Now, let's dive into the next part. Our scene opens in the Silver Dragon Castle in the children's study room. A toy giraffe and a Pokemon figure rest on the shelf, almost as if they're on night duty, keeping watch over the room. Leon sits at a desk, head propped on one hand, squinting at a book with the expression of someone trying to solve a riddle that just won't crack. Just then, Ross Weisse strides into the room, smirking and crossing her arms with a knew-you'd-be-here look on her face. Still up, she teases. It's late. Haven't you given in to sleep yet? Leon, looking a bit cranky, doesn't even look up. Noah's too quick a learner. Just basic teaching? Not gonna cut it. He grabs a book from his desk, waving it like it's a sword against his stress. I'm reorganizing key knowledge points, pairing them with practice tests. I'll be up late working on this, but she'll ace that entrance exam. Mark my words. The scene shifts briefly to Noah, fast asleep in her bed, clutching her little green teddy bear with an iron grip. Ross Weisse laughs, satisfied and undeniably smug. Of course, she says with a laugh. She gets that from me? Obviously. Leon raises an eyebrow, smirking. Oh, not entirely, he counters, leaning back with a proud glint in his eye. I was a dragon-slaying prodigy, top of every exam. Written, practical, didn't matter. Year after year, highest honors. Ross Weisse's confident expression flickers with surprise. Leon, spotting his chance, flashes a teasing grin. So, Your Majesty, what kind of champion were you? Ross Wysa falls silent, her confidence faltering for a moment as she thinks, I always thought he was just a brute who only knew how to fight, but I didn't expect he was a top student too. After a beat, she straightens up, her mocking smile back in place. Umph, you're so powerful, and yet here you are, my prisoner, she quips, lifting her chin with exaggerated superiority. Leon's expression darkens, visibly wounded. Damn it, I only lost that one time, he grumbles, clearly frustrated. In a dramatic twist, he slumps down, doodling imaginary circles on the floor like a sulking kid. One mistake, and it's eternal regret. A tiger caught in trouble, forever bullied by a dragon. Ross Wysa watches him, thoroughly amused. Oh, so the great dragon-slaying genius is afraid of getting ridden by a dragon? Her gaze drifts over the table, where she spots something curious. She raises an eyebrow, her tone now inquisitive. Chili pepper? She looks at Leon suspiciously. And what, exactly, are you planning to do with this? Leon glances up, holding his pen with exaggerated nonchalance before picking up the chili pepper, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Oh, this? He waves it around like a prized treasure. I took it from the kitchen. Thought it might wake me up. Ross Wysa gives him a skeptical look, her tone softening in warning. That's dragon yellow pepper. You're human, you might not be able to handle it. But Leon just grins, undeterred, and before she can protest, he takes a defiant bite. His eyes widen as the spice hits, and in seconds, his face turns bright red as he gasps. Very spicy. Suddenly, he's up, running in circles around the room, desperately searching for relief. Water! Water! Where's the water? He shouts, voice muffled by the fire raging in his mouth, his face a dramatic display of regret and discomfort. Just then, Ross Wysa steps toward him, gently holding his face with both hands and pulling him close in a soft, almost romantic gesture. Leon freezes, his cheeks turning bright red. For a moment, he's completely flustered, while Ross Wysa's own cheeks flush with embarrassment. In a quiet, awkward voice, she says, My hands are cooler. It'll make you feel better. Leon stares at her, his heart racing as he notices just how beautiful she looks in this close moment. He closes his eyes, feeling the refreshing coolness of her hands on his heated skin. Her fingertips are icy, he thinks, but it's not that sharp, uncomfortable cold, it's surprisingly comforting. After a moment, Ross Wysa slowly removes her hands. Leon, feeling the spice finally start to fade, lets out a sigh of relief. Thank you, he says sincerely. It's okay now. Ross Wysa gives a small nod, but an awkward silence lingers between them. They both stand there, their cheeks still flushed with embarrassment. Then, without warning, Ross Wysa turns to leave, walking toward the door. Without looking back, she says, Go to bed early and don't eat too much chili. If your mouth gets too spicy, you'll have to teach Noah to sign instead. Leon, still a little dazed, waves his hand with a grin. Got it, he says, trying to shake off the awkward tension. Before we jump into today's story a little further, I've got a question for you all. Do you think Ross Wysa is a good match for Leon? Let me know in the comments. Just type yes or no. And hey, if you subscribe to my channel, I guarantee you'll meet your ideal partner in the future. So, don't forget to like the video and hit that subscribe button. Now, on to today's story. Leon watches his wife, Ross Wysa, walk away, deep in thought. I actually wish she'd touch my face a little longer, he muses, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. He quickly shakes his head, annoyed with himself. Get it together, Leon. She's the evil dragon who trapped you in a corner, squeezed you half to death, and then told you didn't have enough physical strength. He shudders. Just thinking about it feels a little perverted. Trying to shake off the thought, he refocuses and grabs a book from his desk, flipping through the pages. I need to find a way to recover quickly. His eyes land on a passage. Red dragon fruit. Regulates chi and blood. Nope, that's not what I need. He flips a few more pages. Lotus cross. Helps with digestion. Good for external injuries. Not it either. Just as he's about to give up, a picture catches his eye. A dragon's big force, with a black marble-sized ball beside it. His eyes widen. Found it. Is this it? The next morning, soft sunlight streams in through the window, casting a warm glow on the trees outside. Two birds are perched there, enjoying a quiet moment of peace, adding a calm warmth to the room. Inside, Leon and his daughter, Noah, are sitting together, chatting. "How'd you do on the test?" Leon asks, holding up her answer sheet with a hint of curiosity in his eyes. "Guess your score." "Full score is 100. What do you think you got?" Without changing her expression, Noah responds in a flat tone, 50. Leon looks down at her answer sheet, then back at her amused. 60 points. Higher than you expected. Noah's eyes widen in surprise, and she clenches her little fist, her face a picture of determination and cuteness. Leon chuckles, finding her reaction endearing. "Are you not satisfied with your score?" he thinks, smiling warmly as he realizes how high her standards are even at such a young age. Noah takes the answer sheet from him, examining it with a serious, focused expression. Leon observes her, a soft pride in his gaze. She's cautious like Mian, he thinks, but she's already so driven, even choosing to study on her own. He reaches over and gently ruffles her hair, offering her a tender smile. 62 points on your first try. That's pretty impressive. Noah glances up, her eyes shining as she picks up her glass and says, "Thanks, Dad." Leon opens his mouth to respond, but a sudden cough catches him by surprise. He quickly covers his mouth, feeling an irritating tickle in his throat. "Did I eat too much chili last night?" he wonders, the memory of that dragon's yellow pepper and its heat bringing a wince. "That stuff really did a number on me." Noah, noticing her father's condition, recalls what her mother had said. "Your dad stayed up late working on a study plan for you." That guy, he might be a top student, but he ate the Dragon Clan's extra spicy yellow pepper last night just to stay awake. So, if he's coughing like this, it's no surprise. With a look of determination, Noah places her hands on her hips, thinking for a moment. Then, as if struck by a brilliant idea, she hands a small box to her father. "This is for you." Leon looks surprised, taking the box and opening it slowly. "For me?" he asks, raising an eyebrow and glancing up at Noah. Noah shrugs with a small, almost mischievous smile. "It's for Mom, not me." Leon smiles warmly, touched by the thoughtfulness. "Please tell your mom thank you for me." Inside the box, Leon finds a pill. He picks it up, turning it in his hand, then thinks to himself, this pill feels like Ross Weiss, cold on the outside, but really she just doesn't know how to express her kindness. With a dramatic flourish, Leon pops the pill into his mouth. He raises his hand as if making a grand announcement. "All right, let's get back to learning." Noah, her expression serious, nods in agreement. "Yes." In that moment, the bond between father and daughter feels a little stronger, the connection deepening just a bit more, as they both share in this quiet, meaningful exchange. In the kitchen of the Silver Dragon Castle, the scene was set. A pen rested on the wooden table alongside scattered herbs, a mysterious bottle of fluid, and books whose open pages seemed to whisper, "Read me." Suddenly, two dragon maids entered the room. One carried a tray overflowing with herbs, and the other clutched a package wrapped in coarse paper. In unison, they announced, "Lord Leon, the herbs you requested are all here." Leon extended his hand towards the table, his voice calm, but with an edge of impatience. "Good, put them down here." The maids carefully placed the herbs on the table before bowing slightly and leaving the room. As their footsteps faded, Leon let out a quiet breath, leaning against the table. "I specifically requested extra herbs, so they wouldn't suspect what I'm really doing." His fingers drummed the wood lightly before stopping abruptly. He rubbed his temple, staring at the array of ingredients. The materials for preparing Dragon-grade force are common enough, and the refining techniques aren't too complicated. But why does the book say even the best pharmacists in the Dragon Clan struggle to concoct it successfully? The question gnawed at him, a sharp reminder of his repeated failures. Determined to banish the thought, Leon grabbed a bowl and began grinding herbs with practiced precision. "First, grind the herbs thoroughly," he muttered under his breath, his tone steely as though the words alone could command success. "Then, mix the herbs you've selected and add them to the pot in sequence while boiling." Hours passed. Leon stood at the stove, boiling herbs with the expertise of a seasoned alchemist. His hands moved seamlessly, one adding ingredients, the other stirring the concoction with methodical care. The room filled with the earthy aroma of boiling herbs, yet his chest tightened with mounting frustration. Success seemed just out of reach, taunting him. Finally, Leon slumped into a chair, exhaustion weighing on his frame. He rubbed his face with both hands and muttered, "Failed again." It's not as easy as it looks. He picked up a bottle containing his latest failed attempt and studied it closely. A hollow ache settled in his chest as he whispered, "I've followed the instructions in this book several times, but I always fail at the last step, purifying and separating the drug." His gaze shifted to two bottles on the table. One contained a vivid blue liquid, the other a murky, dark substance. Pointing at them, he frowned deeply. The high-temperature separation method described in the book has its flaws. If the temperature's too high, the drug becomes ineffective. Too low, and it won't yield a pure extract. With a sigh, Leon clenched his right hand, frustration creeping into his tone. Is it impossible to achieve the separation effect manually? Do I really need specialized instruments for this? The weight of his repeated failures bore down on him, but he forced himself to remember a piece of wisdom passed down by the masters. If one method fails, search for another way. Are there any other effective ways to separate the medicinal residue? He murmured, his fingers brushing the scattered books on the table. His eyes narrowed as determination flickered in his gaze. Grabbing one of the books, he muttered, "There has to be an answer. I won't give up until I find it." Outside the kitchen window, lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the rain-heavy clouds. Leon's gaze drifted to the storm. Holding up the bottle of his failed concoction, he muttered, "Is it thundering? It's going to rain soon." The rhythmic tapping of raindrops against the window seemed to mirror his relentless thoughts. Rising from his chair, he approached the window to close it. Gripping the wooden frame, he whispered to himself, "Lightning. Thunder. Thunder." Suddenly, a memory sparked in his mind, and his eyes widened. Thunder. I remember, during alchemy class, the teacher once mentioned that electrolysis sometimes has a higher success rate than direct heat roasting. Excitement coursed through him, replacing his earlier frustration. He spun back toward the table. "The book doesn't mention it," he muttered, a grin creeping onto his face. "But I'm best at lightning magic. Even though I've only recovered a fraction of my power, it should be enough for subtle manipulation like this." His hands trembled slightly, not with doubt, but with eagerness, as he placed one beneath the container holding the herbs. Channeling a faint pulse of electricity, he watched as lightning crackled softly from his fingers, enveloping the herbs in a precise, controlled charge. This has to work, he thought, his brow furrowed in intense focus. For an hour, the room was filled with the quiet hum of magic and the occasional soft hiss from the concoction. Then, as if answering his hopes, the mixture began to separate, its layers shimmering with clarity. The glowing product he had been striving for emerged, brighter and purer than he had imagined. Holding the result in his hand, Leon's chest swelled with pride. "Success!" he exclaimed, his voice brimming with triumph. Carefully, he placed the dragon-grade force pill into a small box, admiration gleaming in his eyes. Dragon medicine is surprisingly simple to make if you approach it correctly. He barely had a moment to bask in his achievement when a soft, curious voice broke through his thoughts. "Dad, what are you making?" Leon froze, his hand still hovering over the box. Leon nearly jumped out of his skin as his daughter Myun appeared out of nowhere, her tail wagging uncontrollably. She bounced with excitement, her wide eyes fixed on her father. "Good stuff," Leon muttered awkwardly, attempting to slide the box out of sight. Myun tilted her head curiously, her smile as radiant as the storm's lightning. "Is it candy?" Leon froze, his mouth working to form words before he stammered. What? "Myun, it's nothing." He hurriedly shut the box, patting her head with exaggerated enthusiasm in a desperate bid to change the subject. But Myun, unrelenting in her innocent curiosity, pointed at the box with even more enthusiasm. "Dad's holding candy. Is it for me?" Leon straightened up and in a comically dramatic gesture, raised the box as if presenting a royal artifact. "This is medicine I made for your mom," he announced, his voice swelling with feigned importance. Myun blinked, her tail flicking. "Medicine? Is Mom sick?" Sliding the box into his pocket, Leon crouched to meet her inquisitive gaze. He tousled her hair, his tones softening. No, she's fine. Your mom's just been really busy lately, so I thought I'd make something to help her relax. Don't worry about it." In his mind, though, he added, "Actually, this is for me." Myun, her face beaming with pure innocence, raised a tiny finger in a decisive gesture. "Then, Dad, you have to take really good care of Mom." Leon smiled, the warmth of her words softening his earlier tension. He nodded earnestly. "Of course, that's what dads do." Deep inside, however, his darker thoughts surfaced for a brief moment. Oh, I'll take care of her, all right, once I've fully recovered. Later that night, as the storm outside grew heavier, Leon sat alone in his bedroom. The box rested in his hands, and his gaze bore into it with a mix of pride and apprehension. Lightning illuminated his face, casting sharp shadows across the room as his mind raced. The dragon-grade force has been cultivated, he muttered. But will the Dragon Clan's nutritional supplement have any negative effects on humans? His grip on the box tightened, hesitation rippling through him. I'll put it aside for now, he decided, placing the box carefully on the bedside table. Before he could dwell further, a sudden knock at the door made him jump. Who could that be at this hour? He muttered, his heart skipping a beat. The door creaked open without waiting for a response, revealing Roswisa standing in the doorway, her presence commanding yet calm. Leon shot upright in bed, his voice tinged with surprise and mild panic. Why are you here? Roswisa, her tail swishing playfully, stepped into the room with a knowing smirk. I heard from Yin that you made me a medicine, something that looks like chocolate candy to regulate my body. Her teasing tone and sharp gaze sent a chill racing down Leon's spine. Her eyes narrowed slightly, her expression practically declaring, I know you're up to no good. Leon glanced awkwardly to the side, letting out a strained laugh. My little cotton-padded jacket leaked everything so quickly, he thought, already feeling beads of sweat forming on his brow. Roswisa, arms crossed with the effortless confidence of someone used to being in control, stepped closer. Don't be nervous, she said with a calm but teasing lilt. I'm not here to interrogate you. I'm just surprised that you managed to refine medicine in such a simple environment. Leon blinked in shock. She's not mocking me? Roswisa leaned forward, her hand extended expectantly. So, what did you refine? Show it to me. Leon swallowed hard, feeling a spike of pressure as he reluctantly retrieved the box from his pocket. Even if I said no, you'd just use violence to take it anyway, he muttered, holding it out to her with a mix of resignation and annoyance. Roswisa smirked as she opened the box, her golden eyes scanning the pill inside. That's good, she said, her voice surprisingly genuine. You're really amazing, Leon. To refine such a perfect dragon-grade force pill under these conditions, it's impressive. Leon's jaw nearly hit the floor. She's praising me? But her tone suddenly shifted to one of playful dominance as she arched a brow. What's that saying? The man of letters and the man of arms. Leon stiffened. Oh no, she's serious now. Roswisa snapped the box shut and handed it back to him. You can keep this, she said firmly, but you're not taking this medicine now. Leon caught the box, confusion etched on his face. Why not? He asked. Crossing her arms, she fixed him with a mildly annoyed glare. As a tonic for the dragon race, it's too potent for the human body. Leon frowned, his grip tightening around the box. Is this medicine really that powerful? Roswisa didn't so much as blink. I'm kindly reminding you that as a human, you can't withstand its power. Leon's frustration bubbled over, and his gaze hardened. So what if I don't have the power of a dragon? He said, his voice rising with defiance. I've defeated countless dragon kings. Why would a little pill stop me? Don't underestimate me, Roswisa. Before she could react, Leon tipped his head back and swallowed the pill in one decisive motion. Courage, he declared with a dramatic flourish, is the hymn of mankind. Roswisa's eyes widened in shock before narrowing in a mix of anger and panic. She lunged toward him. Leon, you idiot. But before she could finish, Leon clutched his chest, a sharp, searing pain ripping through him. He stumbled back onto the bed, one knee collapsing beneath him as he clenched his teeth against the agony. Leon! Roswisa's voice was sharp with alarm as she knelt beside him. Her hands glowed with silvery, healing magic as she reached out. You absolute fool! I hardly ever use healing magic, and now, she worked frantically, her voice trembling with barely contained fear. How are you feeling now? Let me try to break down the pill's effects. Leon raised a trembling hand, gripping hers tightly to stop her spell. Don't move, he growled through gritted teeth, his face contorted in pain. Leon, stop being reckless, she yelled, her frustration boiling over. You'll make it worse. Despite the waves of agony coursing through him, Leon forced a defiant grin, his fiery gaze locking onto hers. Look carefully, Silver Dragon Queen, he said, his voice hoarse but unwavering. This is the courage and determination of mankind. In the last video, we saw Leon ignore his wife's warning and boldly swallow the Dragon Big Force pill. As the pill's effects kicked in, Leon was overwhelmed by immense pain. Now, let's dive into the next part. The medicine coursed through Leon's body like fire. Struggling to bear the pain, Leon unleashed his lightning magic on himself, shocking even Roswisa, who watched in horror. She thought to herself, using lightning magic on himself? What in the world is he doing? Moments later, the pain subsided and the lightning dissipated. Leon, weakened and barely able to stand, nearly collapsed, but Roswisa rushed to catch him. "Leon," she whispered softly, her voice filled with concern. Gently, she laid him on the bed. As she adjusted his blanket, she muttered under her breath, "He really is a madman." Resolving to fetch the court physician, she turned to leave the room. But just as she took a step, Leon's hand shot out and grabbed her tail. Barely conscious, he clung to it tightly, his face faintly flushed. Roswisa spun around, startled. "How did you?" she began, her voice laced with annoyance. Leon, however, seemed lost in his own little world. Holding her tail like a stuffed toy, he gently rubbed it against his cheek. In a soft, dreamy voice, he murmured, "Wife, where are you going?" Her face turned red as she stammered, "Who is your wife? Let go of me." She tried to pull away, but Leon only held on tighter, playfully rubbing her tail even more. I won't let my wife go," he declared with a laugh as innocent as a child's. Roswisa's irritation grew, but her thoughts betrayed her. Dragon-grade pills only strengthen the body. They shouldn't cause unconsciousness. Is it his magic that's changing the pill's effects? Looking at Leon's antics, she sighed internally. He looks like an idiot right now. But at least his life doesn't seem to be in danger. Finally, she relented. All right, I'm here. What do you want?" Leon's eyes sparkled with excitement as he smiled and said, "I want a second child." Roswisa froze, her face a mix of shock and embarrassment. "You haven't even taken care of the 2 children from my first pregnancy, and now you want another one? Forget it." But Leon, acting as if he hadn't heard her, began swaying side to side on the bed, still holding her tail. "I want a second child. I want a second child. Is that okay?" Exhausted by his childish behavior, Roswisa placed her hand on her forehead in defeat. To avoid unnecessary complications, it's better to just agree, she thought. With a sigh, she said, All right. We won't just have a second child. We'll have a third and fourth too." Leon's face lit up like a festival. "Great," he cheered. But then Leon added, "But there's a condition. You'll have to come back to my hometown with me." Roswisa hesitated for a moment, but quickly agreed. "Once we've settled down, we'll go back together." Relieved yet still slightly annoyed, Roswisa nodded, while Leon basked in his joy, happily repeating, "Great." Looking at Leon's antics, Roswisa couldn't help but think to herself, this guy is even more annoying than usual. But, to her dismay, the real trouble was just about to begin. Leon leaned closer, reducing the distance between them with a mischievous grin. "Why are you so nice, wife?" he murmured softly, puckering his lips and closing in. "Moo." Before he could land the kiss, Roswisa grabbed his face with both hands, firmly stopping him in his tracks. No, she exclaimed, frowning. "You're not taking advantage of the situation." Inwardly, she sighed in exasperation. When will the effects of this medicine wear off? Trying to create some distance, she gave him a swift punch to the face. "Idiot," she snapped. Leon stumbled back and knelt on the bed, groaning in pain. Seeing him clutch his face, Roswisa panicked. "I couldn't help it, but now I might have gone too far," she thought. She quickly approached him, gently rubbing his back and asking with concern, "Are you okay?" Leon, groaning slightly and clutching his chest, looked up at her with flushed cheeks. "Wife," he said in a strained voice, "I feel uncomfortable." Suddenly, Roswisa froze. Then her gaze locks onto the glowing dragon mark on her chest. The signal is unmistakable. Oh no! Her thoughts are frantic. This isn't good. Why now? She hesitates for a second, then reaches over and tugs open his shirt, revealing the dragon mark in full. The glow intensifies, confirming her worst fears. Before she can react, Leon shifts the dynamic entirely. In one swift move, he pins her onto the bed with a determined look. "Leon, you bastard," she yells, squirming under his hold. "What the hell are you doing?" He leaned closer, his voice heavy and filled with heat. "I feel bad, wife. I feel hot all over," he whispered, his cheeks reddened. Then, in a softer tone, he added, "My chest. It's itching." Roswitha gritted her teeth, her own face turning crimson. The dragon patron's lightning element must have amplified his body's instincts, she thought, panic creeping in her mind. "This is worse than I expected." Leon held her tail lovingly, brushing his lips against it with a satisfied sigh. "My wife smells so good," he murmured, a dreamy smile spreading across his face. "I like your tail the most." Roswitha's thoughts raced. If this goes on, I'll be. Summoning her resolve, she placed both hands on Leon's flushed face and pushed him away. "My tail drags on the ground all day long," she barked, her tone both irritated and embarrassed. "And you don't even care? Get off me now." Leon gently placed a finger on Roswitha's lips, silencing her words. His voice softened as he murmured, "Roswitha, you are so beautiful tonight." Hearing this, her cheeks turned crimson. Embarrassed, she averted her gaze, looking to the side as she replied, "Even if you say so." Yet in her mind, thoughts swirled uncontrollably. What's going on? His attitude is completely different from before. This kind of madness and intensity. It's overwhelming, and yet. She stole a quick glance at him, unable to hide the faint flutter in her chest. "I actually have a little expectation." Leon, his face still flushed, looked at her with a vulnerable yet affectionate expression. "Wife," he said in a trembling voice, "you can help me, right?" Roswitha hesitated, her expression a mixture of awkwardness and surrender. After a moment, she whispered, "Okay, but only tonight." And so, under the dim glow of the moonlight, the two of them gave in to their emotions, sharing an intimate moment that left the night in silence. The next morning, in the serene stillness of the Silver Dragon Castle, morning light spilled into the Silver Dragon Castle, where Leon lay sprawled on the bed, clutching Roswitha close. Both were blissfully unaware of the chaos about to unfold. Leon stirred first, blinking himself awake. He turned, and there she was, Roswitha, right by his side. His face immediately paled. "Why are you here?" he yelped, bolting upright as if he'd seen a ghost. At that moment, she stirred and opened her eyes. Seeing Leon awake, she smiled faintly and said, "Wake up." Leon bolted upright, his mind racing. "Why are you here?" he exclaimed, his face turning bright red as he registered the situation. Roswitha, pulling the blanket up to cover herself, cast him an annoyed yet playful glance. But then her eyes darted toward the audience. "Yes, you guys?" She sighed, holding the blanket closer, as if shielding herself from unseen gazes. "And I know you're all too interested in her body, but I can't show you guys, so don't even think about peeking at her in the bathroom, okay, guys?" Leon suddenly winced, his body feeling like it had been run over by a herd of wild dragons. "Ugh, my whole body aches. My memory is all foggy. What happened last night?" Roswitha rolled over in bed, groggily sitting up, her expression a mix of amusement and annoyance. "You don't remember anything?" With a flick of her wrist, she revealed the evidence. Her body, now sporting a map of hickeys that looked like battle scars. "You didn't forget this, right, Dragon Slayer?" Leon's eyes nearly popped out of his head. His brain immediately went into overdrive. "Wait, was this me? Did I really do that?" He stared at the marks, his hand flying to his head like he was trying to erase the memory. "Oh no, I remember now." The flood of recollection hit him like a ton of bricks. He groaned, clutching his skull. "No." Roswitha grinned, clearly enjoying the chaos. "Do you remember begging me last night? You know, when you were like, 'Honey, one last time. I feel so bad. Please help me.' Just this once. For the last time?" Leon's face turned the color of a ripe tomato. He reached out and abruptly stopped her teasing with a desperate, panicked shout. "Stop! I remember. No more. I remember everything. He scrambled to put on his shirt, muttering under his breath like a madman. I only took the Dragon Great Force pill to stay healthy and teach Rosweiser a lesson. I didn't expect this pill to be so effective. What kind of potion is this? Looking sheepishly at his wife, Leon scratched his head. Okay, I admit it. I went a little too far last night. Did I hurt you? Rosweiser, clearly trying to stay cool, adjusted her hair and shot him a look that could melt steel. It's fine. Leon, ever the tease, winked at her. Well, I guess now you know I'm in good health, huh? Next time, don't go questioning it. Rosweiser's eyes narrowed, and suddenly, she was right in front of him, close enough to see the panic in his eyes. What? Leon blinked, utterly confused by the sudden proximity. Holding his face gently, Rosweiser purred playfully. I must admit, Dragon Slayer, I was very satisfied with your performance last night. I hope you can keep this up in the future. Leon's mind went blank. Wait, now I'm in the service industry? Rosweiser abruptly switched gears, crossing her arms with a serious face. Now let's talk about the bed. About changing names. Leon raised an eyebrow. Changing names? What are we? Rosweiser turned away, blushing, trying to hide her flustered face. Do you have any requests or something? What do you want? Leon, with his usual innocent look, rubbed the back of his head. Oh, I've been thinking about that. She stared at him, waiting for a grand revelation. Leon looked totally confused. Can you send someone to the Empire to check on my master and his wife? Holding her throat in a dramatic fashion, Rosweiser thought for a moment, then finally spoke. Well, the Silver Dragon aren't really good at sneaking around. But if you're just visiting someone, it shouldn't be a problem. Leon's eyes practically sparkled. Really? Thanks. He immediately tried to contain his excitement, clearing his throat and adding, Thank you for your help. Really? Later, in the Silver Dragon Castle Garden, Leon was lounging in a chair, soaking up the sun like a lazy cat. His daughter, Myun, was nearby, her tail wagging so fast it looked like it might take off. She turned to him, eyes full of concern. Dad, are you sick? Leon blinked in surprise, caught off guard by her genuine worry. He chuckled awkwardly, waving his hands. No, why do you ask? Myun tilted her head, her innocent smile radiating confidence. Mom said yesterday that you took some medicine. She said men can't just say they're sick. Leon's face turned to stone. That female dragon. How could she tell such a thing to a child? What about my dignity? But as he gritted his teeth in frustration, blood spurted out of his mouth. Myun, now seriously concerned, asked, Dad, are you still not feeling well? Did the medicine not work? Did you take too little? Leon, feeling a bit lightheaded from the blood spill, looked at his daughter and quickly tried to change the subject. Myun, it's rude to ask any more questions. But Myun, ever the innocent one, noticed his bleeding mouth and immediately hugged him tightly. Dad, don't die. I can't live without you. Leon, his heart warming at the sight, gently patted her head. Daddy is fine, really. Don't worry. I'm doing great. His mind wandered for a second. As expected. She's definitely Rosweiser's daughter. I always feel that. She is similar to her in some way. He knelt down to her height, trying to keep the mood light. How about Daddy makes you a new toy today? Myun's eyes lit up. Toys? Yay! I love toys. Leon, with some dramatic effort, conjured up a Rubik's Cube, clearly the most complicated thing he could think of on the spot. Here you go, little one. This is a Rubik's Cube. You can twist it around until it's a mess. Fun, right? Myun, delighted, grabbed it with both hands. Yay! Leon chuckled, watching her twist it with determination. I had no idea learning about mechanical linkages in alchemy class would come in handy for babysitting. Am I destined to be a full-time nanny? Suddenly, something caught his attention in the corner of the garden. He looked over, but found no one. Myun, still happily twisting her toy, noticed her father's distracted expression. Dad, what's wrong? Leon without glanced at her, but replied without looking away from the garden. Nothing. He squinted at the corner. I swear I felt a dragon's gaze. That direction. Is it where Noah does her physical training? He then glanced down at the table in front of him, feeling a sudden surge of inspiration. But the child won't come up to join us. Let's make one for her too. The scene shifts to nighttime in Myun's cozy little room. She's sound asleep in her bed, hugging her favorite stuffed toy. The door creaks open slightly, and a shadowy figure peeks in. It's Noah. Noah carefully pushes the door open just enough to slip inside, her sharp eyes scanning the room. She spots a Rubik's Cube lying on the table next to a letter addressed to her. Picking it up, she reads aloud in a quiet but slightly annoyed tone. For Noah, find a way to restore it. She rolls her eyes, muttering, "Idiot. I have no interest in childish toys like this." But despite her words, curiosity gets the better of her. She sits down with the Rubik's Cube, fidgeting with it begrudgingly. As the pieces click into place, her excitement builds until she solves it with a triumphant snap. Staring at the completed puzzle, a sweet, innocent smile blooms on her face. In her mind, she softly thinks, "Thank you, Dad." Back in her room later that night, Noah kneels beside her bed. She pulls out a small treasure box hidden beneath it, placing the Rubik's Cube carefully inside. She slides the box back under the bed, keeping it safe from prying eyes. Or so she thought. From the hallway, Myun peeks through the crack in Noah's door, eyes wide with curiosity. "My sister's been acting strange lately," she muses, hiding things under her bed. What could it be? The next day, while Noah is out, Myun channels her inner detective. Sneaking into her sister's room, she crouches down and pulls out the treasure box. Her eyes sparkle with excitement as she whispers to herself, "Let's see what treasures my sister has been hiding." Detective Myun is on the move. Opening the box, she gasps at the contents, the Rubik's Cube, the armor fragments, and Leon's letter. Holding up her cheek, she giggles mischievously. "So it's true. My sister is actually really nice to Dad. Who would have thought?" But just as she starts piecing it all together, a chilling presence looms behind her. Myun didn't notice it because of her excitement. Without another word, Noah grabs a rope from who knows where and ties up Myun like a burrito in record time. With her little sister bundled up on the floor, Noah snatches the treasure box, tucks it under her arm, and smirks. "No picking," she says firmly. That's it for today's video. Thanks for watching till the end. I know you're craving the next part of this series right now, but be patient, I'll upload it as soon as possible. If you enjoyed the recap, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you.